All right, good evening. It's 7 p.m. and I will call the Albany Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order for today, Wednesday, March 12th. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could join me, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Okay, roll call.
Yes, Commissioner Arkin?
Here.
Commissioner Eisenman?
Here.
Commissioner Moss?
Here.
Commissioner Pilch?
Here.
Chair Donaldson?
Here. All right. The next item is consent calendar. And I see that we have no items on our consent calendar tonight. So I will skip over that. No action needs to be taken. And move on to the public comment portion of the evening. Now, this is the time when anyone in the audience who wishes, or any commissioner for that matter, can bring something to our attention that they would like to bring to our attention that needs to be an item that's not on the agenda. So if you're here for something on the agenda, this is not the time to speak. But if you'd like to address us for other issues or general go to the city issues, this is the time. Are there any speakers? I don't see anyone.
Mr. Chair, I'll just note that we did receive correspondence today regarding the FCC shot clock and an item that was on a previous agenda. So just making note of that.
Okay, all right, that's good. Before I proceed any farther, I think we'll be holding public hearings on all the other items on our agenda. And we'd like to ask you, if you do want to speak on one of the items in the agenda, to fill out speaker cards and bring them over to Ann, either now or before your item comes up. We want that for the record, and so we have your name spelling right and that sort of thing. All right. So the first item on our agenda then for action is 1145 Stannage Avenue, planning application 13090. And do we have a staff report?
Yes, it'll be a very brief staff report. Oh,
Mr. Chair, I'm recused on this item.
Oh, okay. That's right. Okay.
the Commission reviewed this application at your last hearing on February 26th, at which time you continued it to a date certain of March 12th. Pending some design revisions to the second-story addition. At the time, the Commission expressed concern about the existing home, which is located within the home is in the Watercourse Overlay District, which has different setback requirements. And the Commission had directed the applicant to make some design modifications, recognizing that the existing home doesn't meet those requirements, but that the addition could be modified slightly to have a greater setback from the creek. So with that, the applicant provided revised plans and a letter, which is included in your packet. In brief, they pulled back the southeast wall on the second floor to make the addition further away from the creek. The east wall is cantilevered 3 feet towards the back to compensate for the lost area by relocating that wall. The interior layout of the master suite has been changed with the bathroom and closet facing the front of the room and the bedroom facing the back. The small balcony that was previously shown has been eliminated. And the existing gable roof will remain with the extension to the south to serve as a canopy for the garage side door. And some of the window details have been changed to double hung to make the windows more consistent around the entire perimeter of the house. And so on the screen is one of the details included in your packet. And essentially the issue is this. This is the wall that was moved. So you can see it stepped back from the existing first floor area. This is the area that has been cantilevered out to put it further away from the creek. That, in brief, are the revisions to the project. And the applicant is here this evening in case you have additional questions.
All right. All right. Would the applicant's architect like to come forward and provide provide us with comments and with what you've done. I
Yes.
congratulate you for being quick. I think it was just our last meeting when we saw you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Anne, for your introduction. And I'm be happy here to come back and present some revisions based on the direction of comments from last public hearing. And as Anne just mentioned, we have make some revisions to pull back the south wall, which actually originally straight up from existing house, but now we just pull it back, and in order to compensate some lost area and to improve the proportion of the room, so we can deliver the east wall to make it better proportioned and useful. And also the master bath, which is still pretty limited size, moved to facing the front, so we don't have to have windows facing the neighbors. So is the closet. And some windows, we realize that some commissioners have pretty good suggestions, so we change it to double hung windows to make it consistent with the other windows throughout the house. So I hope that this revision can satisfy the requirement and justify the finding for the variance for the overlay district.
All right.
Thank you.
Any questions for the architect right now?
Yeah, I have one. So I just went by the property right before this meeting, and it's, as noted in the previous photos we saw, there's quite a bit of deferred maintenance on the exterior. The paint is half gone. Can you and/or the applicant tell us anything about the reason for the deferred maintenance?
Well, the deferred maintenance is partially because of the homeowner, who is a professor at UC Berkeley, and he's very actively traveling, and he has a very young daughter, and probably he got married but had children at his late years. So over the years, he was thinking of doing some improvement, but keep delaying the action. And now he just reached his retirement years, so he has more time actually to work on the house. So I just think that is a good move.
And is there a plan to, I assume there's a plan to repaint the entire exterior with this project?
Yeah, the first thought is to probably try to keep as much the wood shingles as possible. And after several meetings with prospective contractors, and they all suggest to probably go with more environmentally friendly hardy cement board. Yeah, so
Okay,
there's...
this is a hardy, okay,
Yeah,
hardy board.
yeah.
I'd forgotten that, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And lastly, will there be any changes to the chain link fence that currently exists there? I'm not sure if that's actually on the property or not.
No, actually, it's not chain link fence, it's wood fence right now, redwood fence.
Oh, okay, the
Yeah.
chain link fence. There's a chain link fence in front of the, where the creek, directly over where the creek channel would be. But I assume that must be, must belong to the other property, or must be, well, I guess it would straddle, assuming the property line is in the middle of the creek, I guess part of it would be on the applicant's property? You know?
Well, when I first visited this property, the vegetation is so much overgrown, so we cannot really see the creek. So in order to proceed with the design, so I suggest the homeowner to hire a land surveyor. So in order to do the survey, and the surveyor suggests the homeowner to remove all the vegetations, the heavy vegetation. So after they remove it, and for safety issue, so they put up the new redwood fence, which is where it stands right now, because they have a young daughter.
Okay. So here is, I finally got my photos to show up. So I just took a photo. I can pass that around to my fellow commissioners too. The redwood fence you speak of is the one
Yeah.
that's right over here.
Yeah, that's
next
the
to
new
the
rubber fence. Yes.
next to the chain link fence, and then the creek is next to that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and the creek is next to the redwood fence.
Yes.
And so, going back to questions that were raised previously, then I guess can the property line, would the property line be in the Center Creek line? Would that be the property line?
Let me see. No, the property line actually is further than that.
Okay, so I'm looking at the drawings now, and
The property line is actually the line with the bearings.
sorry, the property line is.
It's the line with this with the bearings of the.
Yeah. Well, it says Berkeley city limit. That's probably the property line.
Okay.
And then the center of the creek, is that FL, approximate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Then it does look like the chain link fence is part of the property, at least a portion of the chain link fence, from what I see.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the chain link fence, according to the owner, it's been there for years, even before they bought the house. So probably he didn't know
I believe it.
if it's belonged to the city or belonged to him.
Sure. I was just asking if you intended any changes to that or not.
We haven't touched that part, but if the commissioners recommend us to probably continue the river fence, probably we would go with the river fence.
Okay.
But I think a chain link fence works well to provide more light into the creek too. So yeah, either way.
That makes sense.
So we are flexible.
I think that's it for my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Do other commissioners have questions?
Yep, I have a couple of questions for you. What is the thought behind going to sliders on the rear elevation instead of double hung where you've gone every place else?
Excuse me.
You went to sliding windows in the upstairs addition. I'm sorry, it's not picking up very well.
Yeah.
So right there behind you, you have sliders upstairs.
Okay.
And the thought behind using those instead of double hung like you use every place else in the house?
Oh, thank you. The reason for this is because it's at the back, and then we have two sliding doors at the bottom. So it looks like it's more harmonious looking at these elevations. And since it's away from the street and no one can see, the homeowner preferred to have a larger opening for fresh air. So he asked for this. So because it's pretty shaded, so he wants to be able to access more natural light.
The sunroom, it would seem natural to have a deck off that on the top of that sunroom off the master bedroom. Is there a thought why you didn't do it?
We still keep the idea to have a sunroom, but since he's going to purchase it from the manufacturer, so it's going to be a prefabricated sunroom.
Yeah, that's the problem that I have. That's not a prefabricated sunroom you've drawn. And so, it's kind of hard to approve something when it looks like it's a built-in place sunroom, when in fact it's just going to be metal frame with all glass.
Well, the homeowner has contacted several sunroom manufacturers, and they could still prefabricate it but modify the top. So that's what he told me about that. And it is pretty economical and functional. Yeah.
Okay. So,
And they will come back for a separate permit for that.
okay, I think then we'll take it off the approval process.
Thank you.
Because I don't know what it's going to look like. If it's a prefabricated one, you never know. It's in the back.
Any comments?
Yes.
So, excuse me, I apologize I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I'm trying to catch up with the comments that were made. I understand the sliders on the back elevation. It might be that those are your egress windows as well.
Yeah, one of the reasons is that,
So I'm curious actually about the front elevation and the change to the large single pane window. And you may have discussed this last time, and I apologize, but, and I was curious about the decision to not make those two large windows operable.
Yes, this is one discussion we have with the homeowner at the beginning a lot, because the location of this house is very unusual. It's facing a street, and then a lot of cars coming and going, and the noise is an issue for the homeowner. And he stays home most of the time doing writing and some research, and he prefers it's better insulated, so he thinks that it's better to be solid, not operable, and then the side windows is operable for light and air. So that's the conclusion we come up with that. So we do have some side windows to provide egress and also light and air.
And it looks like the plan is to keep the existing garage door.
Right.
And I was curious about that, since you're replacing all the windows, it seems that, or most of the windows, if there's an opportunity to upgrade the garage door to match the new window.
Yeah, I think so. You know, the scope of the project keeps growing. It's bigger. So I think by that time, I think it makes sense to replace with a new garage door. So we didn't call for that, but probably can we do that during the working drawings, or we can just put it on record that we are going to replace the garage door. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't have any further questions.
All right. My only comment is, with the modified design now, you have a cantilever in the back and an inset on the side. Have you talked to your structural engineer about that, and are you sure that that's constructible and that it's going to work, particularly the part that's inset? Are you confident that that's going to work out?
Yes, the structural engineer got involved at the beginning of the project, and also the contractor too. So the last proposal is more logical, because we use all the perimeter walls to support the load. Mm-hmm. But with this change, we can still achieve this by placing a beam to support the vertical wall. Right. And we don't have to change the direction of the joist. Okay. So the joist can easily cantilever 3 feet from that direction.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.
It's viable. Right.
I don't think anyone else has any further questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I'd like to open up the public hearing on this project, 1145 Stannage. Is there anyone who'd like to address the commission? Thank you. Oh, I guess not. Anyone, no one to address the commission on this? All right. All right, then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for your thoughts and comments and maybe motion. Mm-hmm.
Did anyone else want to see these photos?
Yeah, I'd like to take a look.
Mm-hmm. So it's I'm glad I went by and observed that the property is quite close to the creek. So I'm happy that we made the decision or directed for the second story to be pulled back from the creek a bit. I was concerned about the deferred maintenance, but the architect has explained that. I think the only other thing I would say is that I think we probably do need to address the sunroom in our motion. Perhaps that needs to be reviewed by staff. And as far as the windows on the rear of the property, the second-story windows, another treatment that's possible is casement windows that are made to look like double hungs, which I've used actually in my own home. That can be a nicer look than the sliding windows. But I think those are my only comments at the time. I think at this time, I think architect has pretty much addressed our concerns exactly as we stated them, and so with the exception of perhaps addressing the sunroom, I'm ready to move forward.
Okay. Wants to go next?
Okay. Well, it's clear that there have been changes made from the first presentation, and I wanted to thank the applicant for being willing to adjust the design. My only comment, and this is really more of a recommendation, I don't feel like I would feel like obligated that we would need to make this part of the conditions of approval, are that there's something very charming and original about the existing window that's in the living room, the way it's divided, the proportions. It meets and it matches the fascia detail of the house, and I like that detail, and I think that repeating it above the garage could be a handsome design, especially since you're repeating the fascia detail and keeping the existing garage door. So my recommendation is either move in a more consistent way with the facade where the existing garage, the existing fascia, and we match the existing window detail, or take it in a more modern direction where you do the new garage door, new windows, and maybe minimize some of the fascia detail. And I realize as you develop construction details and you're thinking about that with your client, and there's design creep, that maybe those ideas could start to solidify a little bit. And that's really my only comment.
Okay. Phil?
Hang on. Go ahead for a second. I just
All right.
realized something that.
Yeah, Phil have some comments. I think that I'm prepared to vote for approval of this right now. I think you've done a very nice job of responding to our comments and particular Nick's comments about moving that second floor farther away from the creek, more in keeping with our setback requirements. I think that Nick brings up good points about the juxtaposition of the home with the creek corridor. Your property does include that creek. And it bothers me that your client, the homeowner, has put that redwood fence to sort of isolate the creek and separate it. And I think there are other places in town. I think it's a real asset to the home. You stand there, you hear the creek burbling, at least during the wintertime here. It's really nice. And I would love to see it integrated into the landscaping of the house rather than have that wooden fence say, here's our yard and the creek is somewhere else. And I would love to see the owner sort of step up and take responsibility for maintaining that area, treating it as a part of their yard, integrating it into the yard. I think the chain link fence in the front is a cheap kind of safety feature. Sure, it keeps people out, but it doesn't look very good. And I don't have a recommendation right now as to what's best to substitute it, and you may have some, public safety reasons for that. I think that if you took out the chain link fence and put in a 6-foot wooden fence, then no one would see the creek. And I don't think that's very good. I think that the creek is sort of a community asset, although it's a privately owned in that location. And I would strongly recommend that your owner work with a landscape architect, to talk to some of the people. He's a professor at UC. Talk to the people in the hydrology and landscaping department. About things that have been done throughout the course of Cordnesis Creek, where it's daylighted in private homes. There are some places in Berkeley where there's some wonderful things have been done, and I think there are in Albany too, and along the Albany-Berkeley border. I would love to see the homeowner kind of step in and integrate that into their yard, and I know there are places where that's done. And I recognize that if they aren't interested in doing that, we don't have any zoning rules that can force them to do that. But it's really something I think they should look into seriously, and it could greatly improve the house, in my opinion.
I concur. Thanks for those comments.
Yeah, okay. Other than that, I agree with Stacy's comments about the garage door, and particularly about matching or making the garage door and the front window facades, the front two windows, more compatible in detailing and working together with each other. And I think that's the extent of my comments. Phil, I think you have some comments still. Mhm.
Yeah, where'd it go? One of the things about the existing house and the front entry is that roof overhangs the stairs going up to the front entry. And it appears you've taken that off on these plans. And that's what I'm trying to grasp is, did you intentionally do that, or was this something, an oversight? If you notice from the photographs, and again, I don't think it would be best to have a roof over that stairs going up to the front door. You don't want people just walking in when it's raining and having to deal with that, especially going up wet steps. What's that? Yeah, the proposed between the garage door and the wall,
Yeah,
on the photographs, that comes down a little bit over that stairwell.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason for that is we want to, we don't like the height of the eave is so low, because originally the plate height is 8 foot, and then the slope down, and it is not very comfortable. So he just don't mind to open it up and have more sun.
Well, there's different things you can do. I mean, you don't have to follow that roof slope. You could, instead of having, it looks like about a 3.5 and 12, go to 2 and 12.
Okay.
So you see that all over a lot of houses, especially over the stairs coming up, that
Right.
changes the slope so you can get a roof over the steps and over the door. It's just a major, I think, a mistake not to do it.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion. Yeah.
You know, that's.
I think
that's
sometimes
your entry.
we listen to the homeowner too much.
What's that?
So maybe I listen to the homeowner too much. So, if he decide to take it out, and then we just, right. I think I could talk
It's an easy
him
thing
back
to take
into
out,
this.
but it's going to, in fact, if you've ever had a house that didn't have something over the door and you're trying to put your key in and it's raining, it's pretty miserable.
Okay.
Also, it protects the front door from rain.
Right.
Because as you know, the front door is one of the few doors in the house that swings in, and rain hits that door, comes down, and it'll start coming into the house. So it also protects it from rain.
True.
So, I mean, this is just years of experience on this, and so I would strongly suggest that you incorporate some type of small roof over that, whether it's flat or 2 and 12 or something that protects your clients. Now, if they're absolutely against it, they're absolutely against it, and I understand that.
No, we agree. Probably we should put back in. Yeah.
Right.
All right. May I answer Chairman's about the creek? This creek, the condition on Albany side is not very good. The band is no permanent construction.
Right.
It's just all those loose concrete blocks, just loosely laid for the bank.
I know,
maybe.
and-
So I don't know if there's some kind of joint effort with the city to improve it. I understand the rebel fence is not very good looking, but I would also suggest the homeowner to probably better integrate it with the creek. But right now, it's just a safety issue after they took out all the vegetations.
No, I totally agree. I agree that it is not in good shape on the Albany side, and it's sort of concreted on the Berkeley side.
Yeah, Berkeley side is more
The
solid.
Berkeley side is a concrete channel.
Right.
What
Yeah.
I'm talking about is something very different. And I think it isn't Albany's problem because it is a part of your client's property.
Right,
I mean, that
yeah.
creek, for whatever good or
Okay.
bad, is it's their property.
Right, I should,
And I'm talking about making it not look like a pile of rubble and
Right.
just like a derelict creek bank, but truly taking ownership of it, they do own it.
Right.
And making it into a landscape feature that it can still work out fine and carry the water that's needed when there's high flows, and at the same time become a real amenity that even if they don't enjoy it so much, that will raise the value of the house.
Right, it's beautiful.
These homes that have daylighted creek
Right.
adjacent to them are rare and valuable.
Right, yeah, thank you for
And I'm going
your-
to add on, or tag on to that, you could always talk to the Friends of the Albany Creeks to maybe come in and with some suggestions and maybe some labor to come in and clean up that part of the creek.
Right, okay, thank
It
you.
is a
that's a good idea.
24/7 flowing creek, so.
Yeah.
They
Friends
might-
of Five Creeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Five
Okay.
Creeks.
Friends of Five Creeks.
Oh, good, okay, great.
Now, let's get back to the real touchy. I'm not happy with the front windows.
Okay?
In fact, I'm very unhappy with the front windows. I found your argument a little weak because divided are windows that appear to be divided is available, and they're going to be just as good a sound rating as whatever you want, as a solid glass. It appears that you're reducing the size of the window in the living room. So you're going to be doing work out there, raising the plate heights, or raising the sill heights. I would really think that the one window that does face the street is very attractive. And I think it adds a lot to the house. And I would hope that you would pull it together and do that two windows, the one over the garage door and that window, and divided it either true or not true, divided. I don't see a reason that sound would ever come into this. So that's why I'm mentioning this. It's really, we don't like to lose the charm of some of these houses. And that's one thing that keeps Albany smaller houses with a lot of charm, most of the houses. And so we'd like to see that kept in some way, that the look, not the windows, would somehow keep the look in. Other than that, I am in agreement that I think that we can move this forward tonight. I'd be
Okay.
willing to move it forward.
So
right, thank you.
I have a quick question for you then. So the original window is actually in the photograph, it's a little bit different than is drawn. It comes down to the line where it divides the kind of the lower material and like it ends at that horizontal
Right.
line, and
Yeah.
it the proportions and it feels really nice on the original, and I'm curious if the client would be willing to consider keeping the window the size that it is as opposed to making it smaller.
Yeah, I was a little bit hesitant to make this change at the beginning. Again, the clients, after they told me over the years, they have difficulty placing the furniture in front of the windows because it's low, and then the privacy issue or the furniture placement is. So ended up they have to close the curtain most of the time. So from functional standpoint, I think he has a point. So that's why. I understand Philip's comments. I will probably do some architectural treatments under the window and make probably some kind of patterns on some nice treatment details. I can do that. So I think it could be charming. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the water table's a little
Yeah,
higher
maybe some
than what's drawn here.
I think
some
so.
planting box or something, at least make it architecturally pleasant. Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah.
So
Almost. The floor is,
Yeah, like I said, I think
it's like maybe,
to the point I think I can support it tonight.
okay. Any questions?
are you interested in making that a condition for the approval?
I work with staff on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The window the divided lights, or,
Well, if you just mentioned he might do something underneath the window, a different treatment, so that would need to be looked at by
Yeah.
the city.
I think we're both recommending a divided light language, though, that
Yeah.
is original to the house in
Yeah,
addition to.
I'd support that as well.
Is that, well, I was leaning either one way or the other, either make it all more like modern, or take it all in the direction of the original language of the house, and since they've embraced the the fascia detail and they're repeating that at the second level, it seems like a more traditional language is being called for here. And so
would
then
agree.
I would argue that we should make the divided lights a condition of the approval.
Right, I think one of the things that this house is a unique location, and it's such a cottage-looking house, that to start putting modern windows on it would destroy the feel. And
I think you have to change the gable details if you go in that direction. And so I agree that, and it seems as if the architect is willing to consider that.
well, I think the gable detail is pretty much what's there now.
Well, they're building a new one
Right.
to match.
Yeah.
Is someone prepared to formulate a motion?
Okay, well, before we formulate a motion, do you guys understand what we're discussing? Okay, and you feel that these are conditions you can live with? Okay.
Okay, all right.
I just want to make sure, because there's no reason to make conditions and have them appeal it.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Do we also want to make sure that staff looks at the sunroom?
Yeah, that's taken off the board. We're just taking that off the plans.
Oh, say that again?
The approval for the sunroom's not even going to be part of this approval.
Okay, that's
It'll just
what,
be like any other
okay.
addition to the house will have to come back through.
Well, I think that we've made some very important design review suggestions, and I really would like to see them incorporated into the motion so that they become a formal part of our action, at least with the front, for the front facade.
Should I make a movement?
Go ahead. Sure.
Okay, I move to approve 1145 Stannage Avenue, planning application 13-090, with the conditions of dividing the lights of the two larger windows. And is staff, will that be staff approved?
Right.
And the
maybe a roof.
sunroom will not be part of this application.
Approvals, right.
And what else? What
The
else?
front, a roof over the front door?
Well, that's up to, what I'm going to suggest is, and I'm going to interrupt your motion, I would wait till you finish this, but what I'm going to suggest is any changes to the drawings in front of us tonight will go through staff review
Okay,
and approval. And if they cannot come to an agreement, then it would come back to the planning commission.
Agreed. Okay.
okay, so I think the motion then is to approve with recommendations for modifications to the design of the front windows and the facade, and addition of a better roof treatment, a better front door, front entryway treatment, an improvement of that. I don't think we can condition anything about the creek. The applicants heard our desires. I don't think we can condition anything. So, okay,
I will second the motion.
all right.
Also, you've left off in your
Sunroom.
recounting the motion about the sunroom is not part of this application.
Oh, yes. Okay. And do you have what we've moved?
Yes.
I think you do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'd like to repeat it just to be
Okay.
clear. There's, the two front windows on the front elevation detail shall have divided lights and be reviewed by staff with the building permit submittal. The sunroom shall be eliminated from the project plans, and there shall be an improved front entry door to the house, front
Okay.
entrance,
It was a roof,
an overhang.
an
Yeah.
overhang, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So is there a second to the motion, or do we have
I
one?
seconded, yeah.
Okay. Nick seconded, so I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
No one's opposed, so it passes unanimously. Thank you, and again, I'm impressed with your 2-week turnaround. That was very good. Okay. All right. The next item on our agenda is 805 Talbot, a planning application, and so we'll move on to that. Just 1 second, I'd like to call, are you for 805 Talbot? Could I call for staff report first?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's great. And then I'll open the public hearing, or call for you. Are you the applicant? Then I'll call for you. Okay. So, staff report on 805 Talbot, Ann?
Yes. Before you
yes.
this
Bring
evening
in David. Sorry.
is a design review and parking exception request for a second-story addition at 805 Talbot. The subject site is a 2,500 square foot lot with an existing 647 square foot, one-bedroom, one-bathroom home. This existing home was built in 1924. The applicant is proposing to lift and relocate the home to comply with the required 3-foot side yard setbacks for a 2,500 square foot lot. Currently, the home is 8 inches off of the property line on the north side. The applicant will add about 885 square feet of new living area. The home will be reconfigured to include a new attached single-car garage, which currently does not exist, a new family room, 2 new bedrooms, and 2 new bathrooms. Altogether, this will result in a 1,490 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. The parking exception is being sought to allow the second off-street parking space in the required front yard setback. This on the screen is a picture of the home as it exists currently. It's something of a bungalow style, although the front entrance, as you can tell, was modified. It was actually modified in 1979. It has the door off to the side there and a sloped roof. With the proposed design, the home will have more of a craftsman appearance with a gable roof over the main residence and a detail over the second-story bay on the front elevation. There is a new front porch entry, which is also proposed, as well as a second-story balcony. The code does allow a front porch to encroach into the front yard setback by 6 feet. That same standard also applies to balconies. There are also new bracket details, which are shown on the plans, and I'll bring that up. This is the site plan here. And this is the new west elevation that is proposed. The addition will be clad in hardy plank, and the existing structure will be made to retain the stucco finish. Due to the size of the lot, Section 2024-050B2A allows the commission to approve a floor area ratio of up to 0.6. Given this project scope, the applicant is seeking that. It's a 2,500 square foot lot with a proposed 1,490 square foot home. As I mentioned before, a parking exception is also sought. The applicant will provide one covered parking space in the garage, although what was pointed out to me in advance of the hearing is that in the garage there is a slight obstruction which doesn't meet the requirement for covered parking. So this partition that's here would actually have to be removed in order to have a code-compliant parking space. You can't have any obstructions within the required area. The existing driveway measures 11 feet in width and 15 feet in length. In the past, the commission has approved front yard setback with a condition to recess the garage door so that the applicant gets the required 16 feet in the driveway. You can certainly do that in this case and require that as part of the building permit that recess be shown on the plans. That would still allow a legal covered parking space and then the exception to be satisfied. There was correspondence that was received and forwarded to you over the last 2 days, as well as some correspondence that was received today and left on the dais for you. With that, we are recommending approval of the project, and certainly the applicant is here this evening to answer questions that you have. I also have several speaker cards of people who wish to address you on this project.
Okay. All right. So the next, I'd like to call on the applicant or the applicant's representative.
Actually, I have
come forward.
statements or questions for staff.
Wait a minute. Any still questions for staff? There are.
One
Sorry.
of the discussions we had earlier was I don't believe that the encroachment of the upstairs into the front setback is legal. Porches are legal in the front setback up to 6 feet, but they have to be open. They can't be with roofs on them. And in this case, there's a part of the front on the second story encroaches way into the setback. And also, I noticed that the stairs from the street up, we had a problem with this on one down the street, was it here on Talbot, where they built the stairs out to the
Evelyn,
Evelyn,
yeah.
and it was past the front setback, our front property line.
Yeah, it was into the right-of-way.
And
In this case, there's room.
There's
Yeah,
room,
that's a good
right.
point.
so this one probably works fine, but I know that from personal experience, that no covered in that setback is allowed,
Okay. All right,
so.
okay. No, just, you'll have a chance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
You'll
don't know
have a
what it
chance.
is with this mic tonight. It's not turned up as much as I
Yeah,
hoped it
you'll
would
have
be.
plenty of chance to talk.
No, she wants me to talk louder.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. No, usually there it is, the mic's up now, thanks. To the guys in the other
Get your
room.
mouth really close there.
No, it's the guys in the other room turned it up for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have, another question for staff, do you have the original of the photos that were turned in with the planning application?
I
That'd be
sure do.
great.
I brought them
All
up, passed them down.
Photocopies did not turn out well, so I asked for the originals. I'll pass these around.
Oh, I see. That's a good idea. All right. Any other questions of staff? Okay, finally. So the applicant's representative, please.
Good evening. I'm Ron Boakley, the architect for the Fletcher family that's
Okay.
owned this place for many years. The senior Fletchers have been in declining health lately, precipitously so. Their son, Brian, is here to take over administering the project from the elders. I think the plans are probably pretty self-explanatory. I'll let you ask questions later, but it's in response to some of the issues the neighbors brought up. I believe we're in compliance with everything, FAR, setbacks, et cetera. And parking is one thing, depending on how you want to do that. Either we pay the exemption, the exception for it, or recess the garage, that's fine. But we tried to give the place a few little jigs and jogs and not make it bulky or a big block. And I think that's pretty evident. You can ask questions about that later. The only couple of things that I would respond to ahead of time from neighbors' complaints is we agree with one of the issues they brought up of having to move the house over to have 3-foot side yards on both sides. I think it would be better to let it stay 8 inches on the north side and have a semi-usable 6-foot wide side yard and be further away from those adjacent neighbors. That's the pattern of several houses on that block. I know it's not legal. You're supposed to have 3 feet, but if you guys could see your way clear to letting it stay, that's how we first drew it up when we submitted it, but we were made to move it over, so it's 2 useless little 3-foot side yards, which is pretty standard Albany situation. So however you want to rule on that. The only other thing I would suggest in my platform of advocating for electric cars every time I get a chance is to do some kind of carrot instead of the stick on these front yard parking places. Give people an exemption if they put a plug outside and let you plug in your electric car in the front yard parking there. Try and encourage that instead of penalizing people with a use permit for not having a deep enough driveway. So if there's any questions right away, or do you want to listen to the neighbors first and then bring us back later?
Let's find out if any of the commissioners would like to ask you any questions right now.
Yeah,
Looks
I just have one to start with, which is, was it the neighbors or staff who directed you to move the house for the setback?
Staff.
Staff.
We thought, both of us remember, this has been 3 or 4 years ago that we first turned it in. we thought at the time it was said it would be okay to leave the 8 inches, but maybe we misunderstood it, so we just did cut and paste in this recent submittal and just moved the whole thing over for 3 feet and 3 feet. But it was originally drawn that way.
Oh, that leads me to a follow-up question. So this was previously submitted but not pursued or not?
Yeah, I said there was all kinds of personal, family, and health issues and everything, so we're trying to revitalize the project.
Right, no,
now.
I'm just trying to get the details straight. So it was actually previously submitted to the city? Or
Yeah.
Okay, and
In
was...
what, 2011 or something?
2011.
I think.
September
and-
19th, 2011.
And it did not, it was, did not come before the commission at that time?
Correct.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Am I right, and do you know if the home adjacent, so that would be 807, is that home built on the property line?
8 inches, I think. I think
8 inches?
all the houses along there are 8 inches so that there would be room left for a driveway on the south side of it, 6 feet wide or 7 feet wide or something substandard, but at least it would be there. A lot of them have been decommissioned as driveways and made into garden. And in this case, this house is up against the rear yards of the houses on Washington Street, so
Right.
they're not in anybody's face. It would seem like it would be no big deal to let
Right.
it stay 8 inches, but
Right,
I'm not sure how that works legally.
Yeah.
Ann says the 3-foot side yard is non-negotiable, so.
okay.
Well, it's either that or a use permit to vertically extend a non-conforming wall. So there's
It would
more
require a
review
use
and
permit
cost.
to extend a non, you're right,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what would
But-
require
but-
another
But
use.
then the new addition in the back would have to be 3 feet no matter what, and then you get a funny
Right.
jog in the floor
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah,
So anyway,
yeah,
so.
okay.
So which is your preferred approach? Is it to leave it where it is and have the funny jog, or to,
I would like to have the whole thing be 8 inches, because it's just a neighbor's garage that the rear addition would be up against, and it's 3 feet back. But that seems like it would be better for everybody, but I'll leave that up to you. And the only other thing, I think one thing that was brought up is the room that's in the second story overhanging the porch. That's an existing room in the first floor, the foyer, that when it gets picked up, it's still an interior part of the house, so I don't think we have to tear it off.
Yeah, you're planning to lift the house. and
Lift the
build
house.
Underneath it, right,
We'll see,
Yeah, up to you, yeah.
because I don't know if that was done with a permit.
okay.
It was built with a permit in 1979.
Because in 1980, then the law changed where you couldn't do that anymore.
I have a question.
Please.
On your west elevation, you indicate French doors and a new entry door and a new garage door.
French doors?
That's
Oh, upstairs.
upstairs, right? And yet they all appear blank, and I'm guessing that they have some character to them. Could you tell us what that character is? Oh, and the garage door seems to indicate those would be hinged carriage.
That's what you
house
folks
style
like,
door.
as I understand,
Well,
right?
we
Yeah.
certainly do, yes. So can you give us some sense of what those will look like? Will the entry door have divided lights? Will the French doors have divided lights?
I'm sure. This is already 3 or 4 years old, so I don't really remember where we left off, but it's certainly possible, desirable.
Okay, and is there a brand of door and window that you're...
Marvin's, I think we have that on the plans.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
It's interesting, I don't know if this was intentionally or not, but your apron underneath the windows that you're proposing is almost flush with the cement plaster rather than sticking out a little bit? You have one bike called out. I'm sorry.
What are we talking about? You mean the sills, the window sills?
The apron's underneath the sills. If you go to your window detail, it's just, usually those are sticking out a little bit further so that they give a little relief to the stucco. Where is it?
Next page. Or
Detail-
no, at the bottom of this
page-
page.
Yeah, it's down below this. So on your typical head and jam detail,
Which page is it? Maybe
Page
Ann
two.
can find it.
Page 2?
It's right there,
Coming up
Right there.
Keep going, keep,
and then to the left.
Move to the side, yeah.
there it is, right there.
Right,
You
yeah.
see, you call for a 1x4 apron,
Yeah,
and
well, I think that's drawn as the detail for 2x6 studs, which the new addition would be, so
I'm just saying that apron could be a
it
two,
could be outside.
two
Yeah.
inches or 2
Yeah.
by, so it sticks out a little bit further, so you get a little bit more
Yeah, yeah.
relief on that wall.
Or run the stucco up and put it on the outside.
Either way.
Yeah,
It just
That's
gives it
fine.
more relief, and
That's
more
fine.
reflects what you've drawn in your elevations.
If I can piggyback onto that, I think that since there's two siding materials, there's the hardy plank as well as the stucco, you would want a similar relief on both.
yeah, oh, exactly. Yeah, you always have to have it on top of the hardy plank. We did the two different materials to break it up a little bit. The new work can be
So
hardy plank.
I don't want to interrupt here.
No, I think,
Could I
Go
ask
ahead.
one more
Yeah,
question?
go ahead.
So it looks to me like that existing porch that's going to be raised is it's not a very good quality finish on the exterior, and so it's, in the drawings, it looks like it's being called to stay as the existing stucco, but maybe patched a little bit. And one thought I had is, well, it's to be determined whether or not that's going to remain, but if it does, why wouldn't you just tear it off and rebuild it since you're putting a shower in there, and it gives you an opportunity to bring some of the hardy plank to the front, or is that something you'd be willing to consider?
Well, it's part of the original house structure. I think
You mean the
that'll sort of depend
1979?
on the existing house structure now, but depend on what condition it's found to be in when demolition takes place. A lot of times I find these old stucco houses, a lot of the stucco ends up coming off, if not all of it.
Well, the
in the
stucco quality
remodeling.
doesn't match the original stucco from when the house was
The
constructed
20s.
in the 20s. And
So
it's-
it could be-
Seems like this is an opportunity to clean up that
Yeah, yeah.
irregularity.
And totally. Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
all right. Okay, don't think there are other questions right now. Thank you very much. We'll
Okay.
probably call you back, so stay tuned. I would like to now open up the public hearing on this item, 805 Talbot. Anyone wishing to address the commission?
I have
please.
4
There
speaker
are.
cards.
And we'll call your name.
Yes. The first speaker is Pat Magda. The second speaker is Julie Peterson. The third speaker is Sherry Yeager. And the fourth speaker is Ming Tsai.
All right, so we have 4 speakers. I'm comfortable, should we do a 3-minute time limit, or if that's okay? Yeah, we can be flexible about that, though. Okay.
Thank you very
Please go
much.
ahead.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'd like to speak, I live in 807 Talbot Avenue,
Okay.
the house that's directly to the south of the proposed construction zone. I would like, what I'd like to say to start with is that the floor plans don't really give you an idea of how close this new house will be to our home. I did include some pictures. One of them shows the overhang on the house encroaching into that 3-foot setback, making it even closer to our home. And another shows me dressed in my afternoon after-work attire with a hand on one side pole and another hand on my house. I can't even stretch my arms out, right? That's how close those two houses are going to be. I know in the Albany design guidelines that you've published, you say, in designing additions and new homes, neighboring homes should be considered in regards to preserving privacy and reducing overall impact. We will have absolutely no privacy. We will see no sky out the windows of that side of the house. He has windows and a door on that side of the house proposed. So I'm very much take exception with the idea that this meets any of those guidelines that you've set forward. I also am concerned about fire safety. It's 4.5 feet between his wall and our wall, and I worry that with windows on that side, if there were a fire and they blew out, that would put our house in danger. Also, that the proximity would make access for the fire department very difficult. I also am worried about the roof line and the fact that our roof is a flat roof and that part of the roof is gabled, and that we have to worry about water runoff from there. I also want to address the parking. In order to put the parking with his garage where he proposes, the current cutback for the driveway that's there is going to have to be moved to the north, which eliminates a spot right in front of 805 Talbot. On that section of street, that close to Solano, we're already juggling parking spaces. So that would cause a great deal of hardship for us in our neighborhood. Visual impact of having a car, not only that spot will be about 40% of the frontage of that lot, and it is on a rise. That house is on a rise. It's not flat on the street. All you're going to see is car when you look at that house. And the visual impact on our neighborhood will be huge. Finally, there is not a single house on that street that is of that size on that small a lot. So thank you. I think, I have 9 more seconds. Oh, no, I'm over.
No, you're
okay.
Please finish. Feel free.
Okay. I want to say that I'm happy that finally, after I've been in this home for 18 years, after many, many years of neglect of that property, finally, I'm happy that he's planning on doing something. I just wish it was in better keeping with the neighborhood and that he felt as if it was a neighborhood, not just a place where he owns property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
And
Since you're
I'm so nervous.
the other neighbor, that's,
I want to just flee.
Phil, you have a...
yes.
Okay.
The question I have, so if we were to approve this, your preference would be, it would be back over where it is now?
If you were going to approve something as tall as this, yes. This house would loom over our home. You can see it in the picture.
Okay, I just wanted to ask the one question. Let you get another shot in there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. The next speaker in? Or do you know who you are? Oh, come forward. You called what? You called 4 names? Okay.
Hi, I'm Julie Peterson. I live at 811 Talbot. And first of all, I do want to thank Mr. Fletcher and his family for paying attention and trying to do something with this property. Historically, it's been a real problem for us. There's been a lot of blight, and the picture you had doesn't show that they've had some vandalism on the house. He put a plastic sheet over the window. We've had some real concerns about it, to the point we've actually gone to the city and asked for some assistance. We've had to maintain the yard for him because he has not bothered to cut down weeds, things like that. So that's a little bit of historical background. So again, I appreciate the effort that he's trying to make. I pretty much agree with what Pat's already said. I don't want to repeat everything again for you. I did submit a memo about my concerns for you approving it, specifically the exceptions to the FAR. That house is gigantic. It was just absolutely mind-boggling, the size compared to the rest of the homes on the block. And we have some real concerns about that, as well as what Pat said about the parking is a real concern. I don't see how it's possible for us not to have a car with the current plan over the sidewalk, and obviously that's a concern to us all as well. I would just ask that you don't approve the exceptions to the FAR and the parking, except parking as well.
Okay. Good. Great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next speaker?
Hi. My name is Sherry Yeager. Patricia Magda, who spoke a few moments ago, is my partner. We've been the residents and homeowners of 807 Talbot Avenue for 18 years. And I'm not capable of being as gracious as my neighbors in regard to this matter. For 18 years, we've lived at this property. We are the actual residents of this block. Mr. Fletcher has never lived there. He's never been part of the neighborhood. He has shown us nothing but contempt for the 18 years we've lived there. I have spent countless amounts of time dealing with his yard. We have dealt with rodents, we have dealt with vandalism, we have dealt with people just see it as an abandoned property. They throw garbage in it all the time, kids walking by, cleaning it up all the time, taking down the weeds, trying to make it so that there aren't rodents nesting next door. That's what we've been living with. And I urge you to read what I wrote because I go into more detail and there won't be time now. But it's been an absolute hellacious thing. And as far as I'm concerned, the issue here is not just about the specific dimensions and so on and so on. It has to do with the quality of life of actual residents of Albany, the people who actually live in the neighborhood, as opposed to someone who has spent the entire time we've lived there as a neglectful, contemptuous landlord, and for the last 3 years simply left it as an abandoned property, newspapered all the windows. That's because in 2011, Mr. Fletcher illegally demolished his garage without a permit. He started to tear down the interior walls without a permit. We had to get somebody from the city of Albany to come and tell him he can't do this. But as far as I know, there were no consequences. Isn't that a finable offense? But at any rate, once he was shut down, he newspapered all the windows and then never did anything to the property for the next 3 years. And so as far as I'm concerned, there's something really, really, really morally, ethically wrong about privileging this person who is not in the neighborhood. And at this point, he's really nothing more than a speculator. He wants to build up in defiance of your own, the City of Albany's own design guidelines, where you say, providing high-quality homes that are a pleasure to live in as well as live among. Applicants are encouraged to talk to neighbors about their development needs, options, and design proposals. Nobody's talked to us. Mr. Fletcher never talks to us. Nobody from the City of Albany has talked to us. We just get our 3 minutes right now. That's it. And we're the actual residents. We're the people who live there. When this 2-story thing goes up, after all these years, we will never see the sky again on the entire north side of our house. I mean, literally never see the sky. I mean, you know how tightly packed in those houses already are together. It's already rather claustrophobic. But the idea that right now I can sit in my living room and I can look above the house next door and at least see the sky matters. It matters to one's quality of life. I would never have bought this house if the monstrosity that he's planning on building was there at the time we were looking for a home. Never in a million years. And there's just something wrong about the fact that we've lived there as responsible members of this neighborhood for 18 years. And what matters to us is just, does it matter at all? He hasn't been there all these years. He's been contemptuous, and now he's going to be privileged? I don't understand that. So I urge you not only to not grant him the exceptions, I think the whole idea of putting a 2-story house of such size, which is going to tower over all the other houses on that side of the street, because it's a higher part of the street already. It's just wrong. We need to be considered. We have been the residents of Albany and that block, not Mr. Fletcher.
Is there another speaker?
Yeah, the last speaker card is Min Sai.
Thank you. My name is Min Sai. I moved into the house across the street, 808 Talbot, about 3 years ago. The neighborhood has been fantastic. I have 2 kids. The street is a thoroughfare for kids going to school and coming back from school. Lots of cars park on our streets. And in fact, most of our neighbors recognize that and allow the cars to park so they can walk their kids to school because there's no parking. So my first request is for you to reconsider the exemption of parking. Secondly, I hope you actually go to the site and look at what is to be built. I, as much as everyone else, like my property price to go up over time. This is not a speculative investment. We have kids, we want to stay in this neighborhood, we want to be able to walk to the schools, you know. I don't think, fairly speaking, this house going up will be, people will bid and pay for this house, but I know our neighbor's house, their property price is never going to go up. It's going to drop because nobody would ever consider buying their house if you look at the site itself. So that's sort of my second point, is as far as community development, I can understand the need to rebuild this house because we've lived 3 years since I moved in of this house being neglected, you know, so I'm very happy that it's being built, very much so. But I think what's being built is really much against the community and the ethic of building a house of this size. More than 55% of the lot this size in our community. Because once you approve this, you're going to have a lot of people who's going to use this as precedents to build houses of this magnitude in Albany. And I think that's going to change the community. It's going to turn our community into a place where everyone's going to speculate on their houses. And it's no longer a community that I'm going to want to live in. So that's my point.
Okay. Are there any other speakers?
I don't have any other cards.
I'll make one comment here. Certainly as a member of the commission, I think I can speak for all the commissioners, is we do read the letters we receive, so we have read your letters, and we do visit the sites, and we are familiar with the story poles. That's why the story poles are up in part, and so I just want to make that clear for the record. Okay. Okay, so that, no more public speakers on this item? Okay, I'll close the public hearing then.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the applicant, follow-up
Certainly.
question,
Okay.
if I may? Yes, thanks.
The photos make it back to you, or could I see
Yeah,
them?
I can recirculate.
I'm just going through the elevations and trying to find a floor-to-ceiling height on both the existing,
In the sections.
they are there, okay.
No, they're not.
The existing that's going to get raised up is 8 feet 2 or so.
Okay,
And so we sort of thought 9 feet for the lower floor so that it looks higher on the lower floor than on the upper floor. Just classical proportions,
And
although
then-
that's all negotiable, I suppose.
and then you have the family room, dining room, living room out the back, which has a, looks like a
8-foot spring point.
Yeah, and it looks like a scissors truss that goes up to
Yeah.
a higher point. Okay, and then also a slightly taller ceiling in the garage. I see it here. Great, thank you.
Yeah. And the overhangs and everything are all, I think, to code, only 1 foot and a 3-foot side yard and a 2-foot setback to the property line. That was brought up.
And
So I think what was left over from the old drawings are on the one side you have very short overhangs and a line that says property line. And you actually are going to extend if this is approved this way, you'll extend them.
Well, it's going to be all new roof.
But the overhangs are going to be equal.
Yeah, 1 foot on each side rather than more on the south side. We had originally had it drawn that way, none on the north and more on the south.
would you have gutters?
Yes, of
Rain
course.
gutters?
Yeah, and drain pipes, everything, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, any other questions for the applicant?
Oh, I did have a
Oh,
thought.
we do have one question.
I apologize, I should have caught you while
The
you were here.
architect.
What is the owner's ultimate intent for this property? Are they going to occupy it? Are they going to lease it? Do they want to sell it? What is the ultimate plan?
This house was owned by my parents. You know, they live in Albany, on Albany Hill, and they had this one rental house. And over the last 4 years, you know, my dad has moved into a assisted living. My mother came down with Alzheimer's. We stayed with her for the last 3 years, which is why everything was just kind of, nothing was happening was we were dealing with all of that. My mother is now in a memory care facility. We are thinking that what we're going to do is probably move into the property. We're downsizing. I have 2 daughters. who are going to rent our house, and we'll probably move into that one.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And so, when you had the stop work order some years ago, then you stopped work and then prepared these plans, so these plans have that 2011 date on them, is that, and then you
When this all started, back then, we had started talking to Ron about doing an addition, which we're going to go through the permit process and everything for. The garage was falling down. There's a tree that hangs 15 feet into the property that, was dropping leaves and the gutters had clogged and it had rotted. It was built in the 20s. Yeah. I got a permit to tear that down. That was torn down with a permit. We opened walls in the kitchen area so that we could see what we had going on framing-wise. That was the intention of that. And there was no intention to remodel or do any building. It was finding out whether we could lift the house, what the house was built with and how much rot there was in the house. I thought the house should be torn down for a long time. It was my father's house, it wasn't mine. And it was always rented. People were always there for it, like 6-10 years at a time. The last renter, when she moved in, I told her when she moved in, I said, this house is to the point that I'm concerned we go to fix something, we're going to end up tearing half the house down. We're going to have to remodel it, and that might very possibly happen in a couple of years. As my parents got older, my father was an attorney. He had dementia, and he had it for a long time before we knew that he had it. The way we found out he had it was the renter of Talbot called me and said, "Your father hasn't cashed my rent checks in 4 months. Is he okay?" And that's when we started looking in and finding out that things were going on at home. So, this has been a long, just long family process.
All right, thank you.
Just wanted to say, we're always sympathetic to neighbors, and you're building the biggest house around. But and you guys hear this all the time, I'm sure, when there's proposals for second stories in Albany. It was Larry Coe, the former building inspector, told me a few years ago he had 97 second stories additions in 1 year in Albany. So I think it's a pretty standard thing that you deal with. So I'll let you address the neighborhood issues as best as you know how.
Yeah, we do deal with a lot of second-story additions.
Yeah.
I'd also have to say that 25-foot lots are
it's tough.
Are very difficult for anybody to design good living space with.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's a problem, and we have a lot of them in Albany.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. With that, then, I'll open the commission's discussions and deliberations. Is there anyone who'd care to start?
I'd be happy to start.
Okay, Stacy?
So thank you for answering the question about the kind of intent. If looking at a house that's going to be flipped, we can, that's maybe not in the best interest in Albany and in the neighborhood, and it sounds like that's what the neighbors are worried about. So we appreciate you filling us in on that. As Commissioner Donaldson said, Albany is filled with small lots, and we see second-story additions a lot. We hear some of the same concerns from throughout Albany: lack of light, the second story, it feels too large, and so this is something that we deal with very often. In this case, it makes sense to add a second story. What my concern is that there is a scale and a charm to the original elevations. If you strip away that porch that was put in 1979, 1980, there is a scale behind that and a roof line that's behind that. And when it's lifted up, actually, would you be good enough to bring up the front elevation? The proposed elevation.
Page 5 there we are.
So you can see the dashed line of the original profile, which is lower than the proposed roof. And in this case, we're taking an 8-foot, what the proposed design is to take this 8-foot ceiling, but actually lift it. So it starts at 8 feet and it gets higher in the middle. And instead of a consistency, it actually feels a little bit top-heavy. And you can see where the height of the door is relative to the top of the gable. And I think that there's room to bring the volume down a little bit in this design so that it wouldn't overshadow the neighbor's house as much. And I also agree that moving the house in the direction of the neighbors is a hardship for the neighbor. It seems that moving it for the sake of gaining the 3 feet on either side doesn't, in this case, seem the right approach. And so I would be in favor of supporting leaving the footprint where it is, but I agree, then the addition does need to jog. It turns out that that jog would be in alignment with where the little half bathroom is, and there's kind of a line of service spaces that is in about that 3-foot setback. So I think that you could still easily jog it and still have a workable family room. The parking situation in the neighborhood, I hear that it's tough and that they would be losing a parking space in front of this house, but I think we have to add the fact that we're gaining a garage and a parking space in front, so we're giving up one, and we're gaining 2. So there's a benefit of an added parking space. There was a concern about the water running off onto the neighbor's roof, and I wanted to reassure them that the plans examiners for Albany will make sure that there are gutters, that there are downspouts, that there is a drainage plan. This is going to have to be a sprinklered project in Albany, and so there's going to be a fire. No?
No.
Is it?
It's under 1,500 square feet.
Oh, okay. Well, the fire marshal will be reviewing it. And one of the questions I had was, if this building has to be picked up and shifted over, does that mean that the new wall that's being shifted over, that entire wall becomes a fire-rated wall? Is that? I'm curious if that's from my fellow architect commissioners, if all of a sudden that seems a little bit extra work. I would also, in terms of this, the bathroom that extends out into that 15-foot setback, I would not be willing to support that either. It seems that goes against Albany's code, but I'm curious to hear a little bit more about that. So my recommendation is that we bring the roof height down. We lower the 9-foot ceilings downstairs. They could easily be 8.6, and so we could gain a little bit more area in terms of light to the neighbors, and leaving the footprint where it is. And I'd be willing to waive the parking. I'd be willing to approve the parking exception.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just want to start by saying how happy I am to be back in Albany. Earlier today, I was down in the South Bay meeting with a gentleman who felt that he and his wife felt they could live with a 5,000 square foot house, probably not much smaller than that. And he had referenced another house that was built down there, which touted itself as the greenest in its category, which they had started at 15,000 square feet for their home, but settled on 6,000. So to be back in Albany and hear people upset about a 1,500 square foot house is fabulous. So I want to thank everyone. No, quite honestly, this is not a large house, and none of the houses along this stretch that are on these 25-foot wide lots are really all that big. And we have a floor area ratio for a reason. It helps us to limit the bulk of these houses so that none of them outscale and overwhelm their neighbors. And at less than a 0.6 floor area ratio, this house meets those guidelines. However, when we get to greater than a 0.45 floor area ratio, we do look for exceptional design that helps to mitigate the impacts on the neighbors. And so we'll talk about that. I think Stacy alluded to a few things in that regard. One of the other things that came up is the concern for fire safety and the proximity to the property lines. And the reason that the planning staff stated that the 3-foot setback from the sides is non-negotiable for what is essentially new construction. Once you're lifting a house, you can slide it back and forth and side to side, is for fire safety, that that setback ensures fire department access to the rear yard. Not every house is built to that minimum 3-foot setback. It's actually minimum 10% of the entire lot width, which in this case is 3-foot minimum, even though it's 25 feet wide, in order to ensure that access. So I concur with staff that that's really not an option for us to consider. If it were a vertical extension of an existing sidewall for that portion of the building that's being extended, we have a conditional use permit that would allow us to do that. But once it's being lifted like this, the ability. Similarly, the house could be slid back a little bit from the street so that existing front hallway could be transformed into a bathroom as is being proposed here and meet the legal 15-foot front yard setback. Curiously or coincidentally, in doing so, it would also create a legal parking space in the front yard, which on a small lot like this, I'd be happy to support that exception, allowing a front yard parking space. So that's what I'd like to see happen on this project. It may be that the rear room needs to get a little bit smaller in order to ensure the proper backyard, adequate backyard open space, but I think that's a small trade-off to make this whole thing work. I like Stacy's suggestion that maybe that bay be sheathed in an alternate material. You've got a mix of stucco and the horizontal lap siding around the project, and I think bringing a little bit of that to the front of the building would be nice. You know, once we see the pattern on the garage door, the front door, and those front French door windows, I think this will be a very attractive house. I'm content leaving that to staff to analyze. And my only last suggestion is that given that the primary living spaces in the rear can have a taller cathedral ceiling, I think we could take a foot out of the height of what it's being lifted, minimize the impact in that regard, and still have a very livable project. I would hope the applicant would agree with that. So those are my thoughts on it. I'll hear from my fellow commissioners, and then maybe we can do something.
I have a question for Commissioner Arkin.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you think that the fire marshal would ever view access along one side, a 6-foot access still consistent to get to the rear yard, that we would still be required to have access on both sides of the house? Or are you saying that they would need to have a visible access in order to spray? I guess this might be a question for the fire marshal. If there's a consistent 8-inch spacing on a series of houses, and we're trying to give access to the fire marshal to the backyard, is that am I understanding you correctly?
I just know that the reason we have setbacks is to establish over time a 3-foot distance between the sidewall of the house and the property line, and ultimately, you know, over a long period of time, eventually all houses would respect that setback, and we would have that distance between buildings. And it's also, you know, for daylight and privacy. So in terms of your specific question, it would be one that would have to be taken up with the fire marshal in, you know, collaboration with us here.
That's what I'm wondering, if this is a question that's bigger than just the Planning Commission, in terms of if they'd be willing to approve it, if they went for the extension of a non-conforming wall at this time, because of its location against the property line and against the garages of the adjacent property, it seems that this would not be interfering with the light of the property to the left side more than it would be if we shifted it to the right and impacted the neighbor on the right side. I don't know. I'm just curious if this is a planning commission question or if it's a fire marshal question.
Well, the planning commission retains the discretion to allow a non-conforming setback to be extended vertically. So if you were to approve it, if the applicant were to amend the application with a use permit request and you approve it, it is something that, by that point, it's approved, and so the fire department would look at it during plan check.
Thank you.
All right, well, I will say I'm open to it, to discussing it further and possibly doing it. I just know that that's the reason why we have setbacks.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I was going to ask you, I didn't think now I think I understand what you were saying. So you're open to the idea of an extension of that existing, a vertical extension of that existing 8-inch setback?
I'll consider it.
Okay, that's good. All right,
Fair enough.
that's good. I just okay. Who would like to comment next?
I'll go. This was a interesting one to go through, and I think that I had my notes the same thing, is if you're lifting a house, you can always move it back, and it's going to be less imposing from the street at that point. So I think that that's a good idea to just go ahead and move it back a couple feet, get your conforming parking out front, because everybody, including me, always comes in here and says how tough it is to park in Albany. So I would support that. Also, given the situation of this house abutting the backyard of another property, I'd be less concerned about moving it to the center of the property. At 6'8", it's getting a little bit more comfortable, knowing after talking to a lot of firefighters, it's very hard to run up a driveway like that and get a ladder up if you only have 3 feet between the houses, because the other house is right at the setback. So I think that I would encourage the non-conforming extension, because I think keeping that separation is important in this case, and there's no house on the other side, so that's even a bigger bonus. Also, there's some concern about the upstairs bedroom in the middle and only having a 3-foot setback, whether that's going to be a conforming exit window or even a ventilation window, given its location on the property, if we move it over to the middle. So there's a lot of concerns I would have about this design, but I would be much more likely to support it if we could move it back on the site also and keep the existing setbacks and go for a non-conforming side setback. The rear, actually, there's 5 feet to play with if I read this correctly. They have a 25-foot setback now.
Okay.
So they could move it back 5 feet. And lo and behold, it also gives you more room to plant some trees out front to kind of hide this addition and the mass and the bulk. So those cases, I would support the sliding the house back, existing non-conforming side setback, allow an extension of that in this case. And for me to say that, I'm not the one that usually supports extension of non-conforming side yard or side setbacks. But in this case, because of the size of the lot and the location and how it affects the neighbor's property, I could support it. Also, I think that there's some interesting to me, and I'm just going to complain a little bit here about there's certain information that are critical that are missing off the drawings. For instance, the depth. I think it's like 24 feet, that great room, 24 feet deep on the property. That's quite a great room. So one would be to bring it down into 55% lot coverage, easily take off 1 or 2 feet of that room. Still going to be a very large room, but now it's a conforming, it's more of a conforming addition and lot coverage and FAR. So that said, I think in the long run, I think I can support this with those modifications.
I think it brings up a good question, applying a vertical extension of a non-conforming sidewall. are you considering, or would you consider a horizontal extension out the rear, which we really don't allow for, in which case we're venturing into variance territory? Or do we maintain a 3-foot setback for the addition out the rear and require that the south wall parallel the existing, which would in turn require the rear room to get a little narrower?
In this case, I would support both a horizontal and a vertical non-conforming setback, which is very unusual for me, but I think the benefit here is a wider setback against the neighbor's house, which is already only 8 inches off the property line. So I'm looking at the way these houses were laid out and not trying to reinvent, trying to get them squeezed back together. And this is, the benefit to this one is because the one on the other side is the backyard. So there is open space back there.
Yeah, versus the other side, which is the back of another garage.
Right, right.
Sorry, Phil, I didn't quite understand. You say you would be in favor of narrowing the rear room?
No, I would
You would not be.
I would be
You don't need to.
fine with both a horizontal and a vertical non-conforming setback. And,
I'm not sure that you can do a horizontal setback.
I'm not sure.
what do you mean I can't do it? I can do anything I want.
Footnote 19A. I'll just read it into the record. So we have this: non-conforming walls shall be allowed to extend up over an existing wall or foundation which does not conform to the required setbacks, subject to design review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and obtaining a use permit. Existing walls which do not conform to the existing side or rear yard setbacks may be extended, subject to design review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and a use permit. Such extensions shall not encroach on any required setback, i.e. a non-conforming wall which encroaches 1 foot into a required setback shall not be permitted to encroach 2 feet, nor shall any extension create a new encroachment in another direction.
I know, and I fought for that, but in this case, I guess we could just go ahead and shift the back additional great room over.
Yeah.
There's room
And,
to do it.
It's 1 story, so it's less of an impact.
And do you allow it to then go to 3 feet on the south side, or should that parallel the existing house, or?
No, they're allowed 3 feet, so 3 feet on the back, on both sides, then it's a conforming setback.
You know, since there's a row of these houses that are, if we were to extend it on this one, then the next one that comes before us, we would have to extend it horizontally as well, and I think that that's probably not in the best interest of
Well, let me go back to a little history here. One of the reasons that and I remember one particular one we had here years ago, this long discussion about this, and it was a 25-foot wide lot. And by not allowing a horizontal, it basically made the lot where they could not expand their house. So in the past, we've been a little bit more lenient on 25-foot wide lots, but I think when we wrote the last code, we really just took them out altogether. So horizontal extensions need to be in the setbacks.
Well, this house with this design is very flexible because it's a big room. And pulling the wall in, you know, if this was chopped up into a bunch of little rooms and circulation paths, it might be more difficult. But I think in this case, it benefits the room because it brings down the floor area ratio. The room gets a little bit smaller, but we can accommodate the code as it is written. I don't think we should hypothetically consider the next 25-foot lot when this design could accommodate that 3-foot setback.
Might I ask if I could give my comments before we get into too much more discussion? So no, I just think that I just have some questions about some big questions that might influence the discussion. So I don't, maybe I missed it, but why is the applicant proposing to raise the existing structure rather than to work with the existing structure in place? Did we find the answer to that question or ask that question of the applicant? Would the applicant like to address that?
constructionally, it's almost always better to pick an old house up and do all the foundation and shear walls and everything and new construction underneath it than to try and build on top of something like this or to bring it up to code.
But isn't it possible to pour a new foundation with the existing house in place and then build on top of it?
Anything's possible, but doing that and doing all the shear walls and strengthening is usually cost prohibitive compared. Picking it up is like $3,000 or $4,000 for the house movers, and that's why. Well, anyway. It can
Well, I'm
be.
just going to say something. That when you do the foundation, you lift the house anyway, so you can do the foundation.
Right.
So a lot of people
Yeah.
feel just leave it up. Why bring it back down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and-
that's why.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And it turned out that it was actually cheaper to slide the house over, have the house mover slide it over than to pay for the use permit to leave it at the 8 inches. But we would rather leave it 8 inches. If that's what you're saying, I think that would be better. But the question is then you're talking about leaving the rear addition 8 inches too, building a new wall?
Well,
Or
yeah,
not.
if we could
We're
get back to
debating
that.
Okay.
We're debating that. We're not sure that we can,
Oh, okay.
we're not sure we're behind
Still-
that.
still-
Not sure we can approve that even.
In discussion.
Yeah.
So, by the way, I really appreciate your comment about having allowing the front parking space in the front yard set back with the condition that there be an electric plug for electric vehicles. I think that's very smart. I'm not sure how, I'm not sure that would actually cause people to have an electric car or just to put the plug in, but it's a very smart idea nonetheless. I think that, I think we are increasing the number of off-street parking spaces here, so that's good. It does seem, I concur that I'd rather see us find a way to leave the footprint of the house where it is so it does not move closer to the existing house, and there being only a garage and accessory building on the other side doesn't seem to, there's no issue with encroachment on the privacy on that side, where there certainly is on the one side. So I'm amenable to that. So the reason why I asked the question about lifting the house is that quite often in second-story additions, we see the mass of the second-story addition to the rear of the property, not to the front. And that's also another way that you would allow more privacy to the neighbors and more light, keep the existing light. And so I wanted to ask, but if you lift the house, I suppose you could move it to the rear as well and put that the second-story addition to the rear. So maybe, were there code considerations that led you to not move the second-story addition to the rear and keep it in the front?
I think that would cost a fair amount to roll the whole house back that far.
I see. Just jacking it up is cheap, but moving it would be...
Basically, they do it with automobile jacks.
Okay.
It's so simple.
Okay. All right.
So-
Thank you. But nonetheless, that would be, I think, my preferred way of handling an addition to the square footage of the house would be to have the mass of the second-story addition to the rear. Not being an architect, though, I don't know, and not seeing where exactly the neighbor house lies. I'm not sure that would necessarily be good or bad. Perhaps that would create privacy issues in their backyard. I'm not sure, but it's definitely something that came to my mind. I think that's my comments for now, except that I just want to reiterate that any way to leave the footprint where it is would be my preference as well, if we can if it requires the use permit, et cetera. But I'm not sure that we can, in terms of going forward, I'll just say that I'm not sure we could go forward with this project tonight, given all the concerns that we have to deal with. Oh, one last thing. Details. I believe it might have been Commissioner Arkin who mentioned that there are some details that are just not called out in these plans. So if we're looking at an FAR that exceeds 0.45 and we look for exceptional design, I think that calls for calling out all the details in that design as well, so that we know exactly what we're getting. I'll stop right there for the moment.
Let me just respond to one thing you mentioned. I think that's the reason why I kind of like this design is they move the mast to the front. It's a single story in the back, so it gives privacy to the neighbors because you're not moving everything to the back, so everybody's looking down at each other's backyards. So
yeah, not knowing the footprint of the house it really depends on what the footprint of the house, the 807, I think it is.
yeah, it's right here. That's the back of their house right there. So you're only moving the single story back.
Okay.
I can further explain that the reason we see rear yard additions of 2 stories is because it's a small existing house, and the least expensive way to add onto it is a 2-story volume at the rear. Yeah. And as Evan Flavel, may he rest in peace, used to say, that's the old woman in the shoe.
Old woman in the shoe syndrome.
But I thought it was also in a street that does have a number of small houses that face the street, or at least, 1 stories that face the street. It was one way of mitigating the effect of adding an addition, the 2nd-story addition, so that the mass wasn't at the street. And is that not correct? I mean, is that not a consideration as well?
I don't think that's a high priority, and I think our new residential design guidelines address the fact that we have a variety of houses already, including some that are 2-story built to the street, and there's no reason why they can't do that. Yeah. But I do think in this case, by having it set back enough to respect the front yard setback as part of this lifting, that would help to mitigate some of that 2-story presence, especially the porch, which would otherwise, or the bathroom, which would otherwise be in that front setback. Yeah. So I think that is a good move. I had one small additional design review item on the front facade, which is just that I'd like to see that window in the shower have a more vertical proportion. I think the other openings on the front facade are more vertical. That's all.
That's a good one.
A minor one. Again, I think given that this is a relatively small project, I think I'm hearing some consensus. I'd like to try a motion to approve and see if we can do this.
Motion to approve, huh?
Actually, because the applicant has not filed for a
use.
use permit, we need him to amend the application, pay the additional fee, and then send a new public hearing notice.
Yes, you are correct. So I think I'll move to continue this item. And in doing so, it would be really nice to see a few things, which I'd like to enumerate, which would be that the kitchen ceiling be 1 foot shorter, so the overall house becomes 1 foot shorter, that the project meets a front yard setback, and in doing so creates a legal front yard parking space, while at the same time ensuring proper open space. I think Commissioner Moss indicated they would still have that. That the front facade show the actual pattern of the front door, the French doors, and the garage door, along with a more vertical proportion on that front window. I like Commissioner Eisenman's suggestion of horizontal siding on that porch bay. But we'll leave that up to the architect to determine how to best treat that front facade. And then I think I'm hearing general support for a vertical extension of the existing building by keeping that 8-inch setback. At the rear, we have to have you respect the 3-foot setback, and I'd like to propose an 18-foot maximum width, so it's a 4-foot setback on the other side, and your builder will tell you that you just saved some money by using a 2-foot increment across the back of the building. So there'll be that benefit. But I move to continue this item to a date uncertain so that it gets noticed again.
David, in your motion, did you address parking moving back? Or?
Yes.
We'll move it
Well, and
back.
that's really not part of the motion. I'm just,
Pardon?
that's not really part of the motion. The motion is only to continue this item. I
You
just,
you moved to
Your list.
continue and then you had
and
comments.
I just wanted to summarize
So I have
what we've
one more
discussed.
comment, and we had talked about the apron detail at the windows and that it wasn't flush, that it was applied.
Okay,
As well.
window detail.
And then I'm curious what the other commissioners feel about the ceiling height of the second floor, because the plan is to raise the floor, but then add a new roof on that has profile, and the roof does have character. It has the gable.
Yeah, but
It's mat-
changing the plates is a pretty expensive affair. You wouldn't want to do that.
Well, would we consider recommending keeping it flat as it is now to keep the roof height down?
Can I clarify? I think there's parapets all the way around the roof, and in the front, it's got that little pitch to it, but it's
Right.
really a flat roof with all the slopes coming out to the side yard. And we don't know how the parapet's built, but so we showed the new trusses just sitting on top of the parapet, but it would be entirely conceivable to remove the whole existing roof and put the new sloping roof trusses right down on the top plate of the walls rather than on top of the parapet, and you pick up 18 inches or a couple of feet.
I tell you what, you do that and you can keep the 9-foot ceiling in the kitchen.
That would,
Okay.
that would
That would
drop.
make- that would make a
drop
bigger
the level
difference.
By 2 feet,
Yeah,
or
but
18
we
inches.
We
to
just
2
don't
feet.
know what it's built
Yeah,
of now,
okay,
so we
okay.
didn't want to shoot ourselves in
I
the
think
foot.
that's a better place.
I think
to-
it's a good idea.
Yeah, so you're saying you
Yeah.
don't know if it's balloon framed,
Right. Yeah, then you'd have to cut,
but if it's platform frame, you don't want that parapet up there.
don't
Because
want
you
it,
create
yeah,
an arm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what the roof structure
Hinge,
is,
yeah.
it's all weird slopes and who
Right.
knows what,
Just
so,
slope to drain, yeah. Okay,
okay.
Okay,
okay,
I'll restate my motion to continue this item to a
Okay.
date uncertain.
okay. Okay, is there a second to David's motion?
I'll second.
Okay, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
And again, our primary need in this case is because it was not noticed with a conditional use permit for a vertical extension of a non-conforming sidewall. So that's why this is coming back. Okay, thanks.
well, okay, I see that we've lost the youngest members of our audience a little while ago, and move on to the next item. It's late, not only for children, but getting late for adults. The next item is 601 Kains, and perhaps this was their item, I'm not sure. Okay, do we have a staff report?
Yes.
If you want to address the commission on this item, you could bring in your speaker cards to Ann. All right.
Before you is a design review request for a 535-square-foot single-story addition located at the rear of the home at 601 Kains. The subject site is a 3,750-square-foot corner lot, which is at the corner of Kains and Garfield. The existing home was built in 1922 and is a little over 800 square feet in area, with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The addition will include 2 new bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a master suite closet.
Excuse me, Ann. Could someone close the door back there? Could you close the door back there? It'd be great. I hope the neighbors are talking with the owner and architect here. All right. Okay, I'm sorry.
I may have to run to the other side and turn on the projector. I wanted to give you an overview of the site plan. As I mentioned, the addition is located at the rear of the existing home. It is a corner lot, so there's a 7.5-foot side yard setback that's required for corner lots. The detail that I will show you momentarily shows that on this addition, they've actually reduced the setback from 7.5 feet to 5 feet, where the 7.5 feet is required. The existing home conforms to all of the setbacks. This, however, cannot encroach into the required side yard setback. And when I spoke with the project architect, he was interested in having this treated as a projecting bay. I don't think that would be an issue if there wasn't a foundation underneath. If it's cantilevered, I don't think that would be an issue, but I can let the architect address the specifics of the construction. So I think for your purposes this evening, we're suggesting that you provide feedback to the applicant to discuss this issue in a bit more detail. If you feel you can come to a conclusion tonight, we have given you draft findings and conditions. Certainly, you can continue it pending a design revision. It's at your discretion.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone who has any questions of Ann? So you're going to try to bring was there a technical problem, huh? Mm-hmm. Okay. No, okay. Well, the next thing is that I'd like to ask the applicant or applicant's representative to come to the podium and address the commission on your project.
In lieu of the projector, I could do an interpretive dance of the project, but I don't know that you would appreciate that.
Sorry for the technical problems.
Right. My name's Greg Van Mecklin. I'm the architect for the project, and the owner of the house, Michael Green, is with me also. Unfortunately, as you noted, their children, Melanie, his wife, and their two children, Juliet and Dylan, it was a little bit late for the kids, so they behaved beautifully, but there's limits. So as you've seen, the house is a very simple, straightforward addition that we're trying to do. I think the issue that Ann raised about the setback was a slight miscommunication. I misheard what she had said earlier. We had talked to her about putting in a projecting bay into the setback, which is allowed under the Albany Code up to 25% of the length of the wall. And she said that adding floor area is fine. When I drew it, just carried that wall down as foundation, but frankly, the contractor is going to give me a kick in the ribs and say, why don't we just cantilever that so it's 2 less corners for the contractor to pour in the foundation. So for us to cantilever the 30-inch, then it is, as I understand the Albany Planning Code, a true projecting bay. It's less than 25% of the length of that wall. It extends the allowable 30 inches into the side yard setback. If that's all it takes, give me a red pencil and I'll mark up the drawing right now, make it a condition of approval, whatever. That's actually going to be easier and cheaper to build, and that's a win-win for everybody. I'm happy to answer any questions. Also, Michael would like to say a few words.
We've owned and lived in this house for 10 years. We have 2 little kids. It's 800 square feet. That means that we're right next to each other at all times, at all days. And the house, as we are hoping to do it, is totally in sync with the size of all the other houses on our side of the street. And the reason that we didn't build up is because it's more expensive for us. I run a nonprofit, the Center for Environmental Health. My wife works at UC, so we're not in a position to do something that would be more expensive but take up less space.
Yep. Okay. All right. I have a question, I think probably maybe for Ann or for the architect or both of you, but I want to ask, so as I understand it, it looks like if the Kains frontage is the side yard, then the Garfield frontage is the front yard, but the designs don't show, the front door will stay where it is on Kains, even though that would so just be basically technically, then the front of the house would be on Garfield, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, but basically the design would not be changing on the Garfield side. All right. It's more of a technical thing than what you see.
And our ordinance leaves it to the determination of the planning administrator.
Okay.
To say which is the front and which is the side. And I think the pattern here supports that.
Yeah.
And if we were to do the front yard on Kains, a 15-foot front yard and a 15-foot rear yard on a 37.5-foot wide street, That's a little tough.
That's a little tough, yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, any other questions? No?
Can you?
Okay,
Whoa.
question? Yes.
Can you describe what's going to happen to the cottage? Because one of your drawings you say demo, and the other one you say relocate.
Well, when on the site plan, it's not really demo, it's relocate, but I didn't have a good term for it on the existing site plan. So yes, we are going to pick up the existing cottage and move it up against the existing garage. So we're not demoing it, we're relocating it.
Saw that too. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address the commission on this project?
I have
Oh, there are?
one
Okay,
speaker card.
Yes,
Cody Schrey.
okay.
Hello, good evening. I'm a neighbor. I have 2 kids. I have 3 kids actually. Sorry. Plays with Michael's 2 kids, and landscape architect by trade. Michael's great to have in the neighborhood. Their house is a bit small. This is a extension horizontally, not vertically. We're all in favor around the neighborhood. We've spoken. I'm here to represent in person. I am aware multiple neighbors are also in favor, and I know this is a rare occasion, but even Ed Fields and Maureen Crowley are also in favor. I know that's rare. But I just wanted to add that.
They're neighbors, huh?
Yeah, so they're a couple houses up from me. I'm 612. He's 601.
Okay.
Anyway,
you
in
know
favor.
You know they're listening, right?
Of course. Hi guys. YouTube, live. Yeah. So I just want to say I'm in favor, and this would be great. They would stay in the neighborhood. We retain community. I'm all for it, as well as other neighbors. Thank you.
Okay. Another speaker? No? Okay. No other speakers on 601 Kains, so I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the commission, find out who would like to start. Anyone?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
This
Thank
time. And I'll note that the application here is 1,341 square feet in total, so it remains a delightfully small house. Thank you. It's also at a 44.6% floor area ratio, so the architect has heard how notoriously difficult we are when we exceed that 0.45. No, I'm kidding. I think they've done a lovely job here. This is really a great house, and they beat us to the punch in terms of recommending a bay for that master bedroom. So I can support approval with all of the staff recommendations.
Stacy, you want to make any comments?
I have nothing further to add. It's a great design.
Okay, Stacy adds nothing more. Nick?
No, I have nothing either. I'm in favor of the project.
Mr. Moss?
I'm going to ask because both the architect and the owner, you have a nice beveled ridge on the main house, and you're going to straight gables on the addition. Is there any chance you could mimic that? Because it would look a lot nicer as a consistent design.
We looked at a variety of options for the roof, including that, and that's a little bit more expensive. That's part of it, but not the major part of it. It was more a matter of the projecting bay and the roof form for that, and believe me, we went through about 5 different options, and I know Michael and Melanie tore their hair out looking at the different options that I proposed for them. And the bevel roof with the pop-out just didn't seem to work, and since we were losing the bevel on the south end of the house, because we wouldn't want to have that bevel continue, it's a waterproofing nightmare, we just decided that the straight gable, which also actually fits in with the context of the neighboring houses. Interestingly enough, after I drew this, I just looked at all the other houses down the block, which I had sort of looked at, and most of them have either a parapet wall or a straight gable coming out. The house immediately to the south of ours at, I think that's 605, does a very similar pattern. It's a taller house, just as ours is just a little bit taller than the existing ridge. Theirs is actually one of the classic split levels with a garage below. So we just thought that continuing that pattern seemed more appropriate than turning the bevel sideways. But I understand your desire for that, we did debate that.
I'm not saying turn it sideways, I'm just saying bevel the eaves that you do.
Right, sorry, yeah, but that would be, the bevels would then point in the east-west direction rather than just in the north-south.
Well, it also looks like the solar panels.
Right, it would also take away some space for solar
Right.
panels if we did that. We'd lose a couple of panels, probably.
They seem to max out that south elevation, and so, I don't know if you've looked into how many solar panels you actually need, but it looks like you have, that you've, is this the estimated number?
These are the estimated number. I mean, these are based on what I know the current panels in the marketplace are right now. I used Sanyo, don't ask me the model number of the solar panels, but they are sized to that. And typically for the hot water panels, 3 for a household. Remember, they have a charming 4-year-old daughter. When she's 13, the showers are going to be long, so the hot water you need as much as possible. And for the photovoltaic, for the electric, ideally in a few years they would go from having a gas stove, which is not a renewable material, to an electric stove. For a household this size, you'd probably need about a 4 kilowatt system, which is about what we can get to with photovoltaics, unless the technology improves, and we just don't know that.
Had you considered putting the solar panels on the garage roof?
That garage is, how can I put it nicely? Michael, cover your ears. That garage is in very poor condition. And I wouldn't put it.
It's in the shadow of the house to the south, too.
It is partially in the shadow. I mean, we could put more solar
much.
panels there, but it gets a lot more complicated. Ultimately, I'm hoping that garage, that they can find the means to replace that garage.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I mean, I think I can support the project, and I think Phil's comment about the roof line is well taken, but I also think that the architect's responded with a reasonable rationale for why he's done it the way he's done it. I think probably appropriate for a motion. Anyone like to make a motion? Mm-hmm.
Sure. I'll move approval of planning application 14-005 at 601 Kains Avenue and an addition including design review approval, incorporating all of the conditions outlined in the staff report and noting that making the bedroom bay does address condition SP2 in the conditions.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right.
I have a question. If in the heat of battle, developing construction details, the roof profile that Commissioner Moss had recommended, if it was to come back in construction details, I'd want to make sure that we would be willing to allow that. Is that something that we need to make a condition?
To carry that theme of the
I
bevel
think
ridges.
we could add that as being, a staff approval.
Staff approval?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and I'd also accept squaring up the gable on the north end if they chose to do that.
Mm.
So,
For consistency, okay.
yeah, but I don't think it's necessary
Okay.
either.
Okay. All right.
No, my thought was only on the west elevation, not on the east, because the west faces so much of the street.
Yeah.
It would be nice if it was consistent, rather than just looking like an addition.
Gotcha.
And you possibly won't lose any solar panels at that point, but
Yeah, but I see the architect's dilemma with dealing with the bay or that
Yeah.
projecting portion.
Okay.
Yeah. I agree. All right. I think the motion's clear. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one opposed. All right. So your project's been approved, and I should say there's a 14-day appeal period. Someone can appeal it to the city council. If there's no appeal in 14 days, our action is final. Thank you very much. Good luck with the project. Yeah, good. Mm-hmm. Okay.
there's no woo-wooing.
I'll allow it.
Overturned.
All right. Where are we here?
Mr. Chair, I note I'm also recused on this item due to the proximity to my home, so
Okay.
I'll see you in a moment.
Oh, this is 1089 San Pablo, yes. All right.
I'm sorry, when did you say you're going to see us? On the 18th of March for the traffic?
I'm not leaving.
Oh.
We have one more item after.
Okay.
We have one more item after this, so you'll be back. Okay. Thanks, David. All right. So the next item then is 1089 San Pablo, and Ann, do we have a staff report?
Yes. The applicant is seeking a conditional use permit and parking exception for a new daycare business at 1089 San Pablo. This was formerly the Key Shack business. The subject site, it's a 5,000 square foot lot, and it actually has two different structures on it. The structure which faces San Pablo Avenue is a single-story commercial building, which you would recognize as the Key Shack. There's also a single-family home which is contained on the same lot and faces Dartmouth Street. As I mentioned, the Key Shack was there for many years, and they vacated last year, at which time the property sold to a new landlord. The building itself is 1,550 square feet in area. The home on Dartmouth is 720 square feet in area. There is a common space between both the commercial structure and the residential structure. As part of the business locating at that location, the area between the two structures will serve as the outdoor space that's required by state licensing. The commercial building will contain a play area, nap area, restroom, as well as an office. There's an attached garage that's going to be converted to the eating area. And the single-family home will also have play space, a kitchen, and a laundry to serve the business. The applicant has operated the Rising Sun Montessori School out of their home in El Cerrito for the past 14 years. With this application, they are proposing to relocate their business to Albany at this location, which will allow them to expand their current enrollment, which is 14 children, up to 35 children. They offer daycare and preschool programs from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and have 4 full-time employees. The location of the Key Shack has an off-street parking space with 3 parking spaces. The code it requires it's 1 space per 6 children enrolled, so that would create a total of 6 off-street parking spaces. They have sought the parking exception for those 3 additional spaces as part of the business. I went out and conducted a parking survey at 8:30 morning last week. One thing to note that is quite helpful for this business, there's 20-minute timed parking the entire curb length in front on San Pablo Avenue. So for pickup and drop-off, that really is ideal for a daycare use. There's also additional on-street parking on Kains and Dartmouth. At the time I was out, obviously all of the green parking, timed parking on San Pablo was available, but there was a 50% availability within 500 feet of the subject site on Dartmouth and Kains and even up to Stannage. With that, we're recommending approval of the project and certainly can answer any questions you might have, and the applicants are here this evening to address you.
Good. Are there any questions of staff? No? Seeing none? Would the applicant like to come forward and address the commission on your project?
Just one quick question. Is there any painted or timed parking on Dartmouth?
No, there's
Okay.
no timed parking on Dartmouth.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Mark Gonzalez, and Ann Hirsch, she actually stole my whole thing that I was going to say here. But so with that, I would like to say that that Gloria here, Panetta, the owner and operator of the school, opened the original school in El Cerrito, and has been open for the last 14 years. And with the help of her sister, Reina Panetta here, has helped to run a very successful business. And the site that we're looking for now over here at 1089 San Pablo is perfect for what we need in size, nature, and the area, and it backs up to the high-density residential area where there's a lot of families that we'll be able to reach out to. As she was saying about the parking, I believe that we should be fine with that 20-minute area on the side of by San Pablo Avenue. And that we would definitely talk to the parents and make sure that they were to exit the side, the children on the side of the sidewalk. That being said, that we really are looking forward to this project and hope that yourselves and the community will look at us as an added asset to the city of Albany.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant right now? No? Sorry. Not yet. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We may call you back. Good. All right. Oh, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Gloria Pineda, and thank you for putting us in tonight's agenda as are very anxious to find out what about this building. I just would like to tell you that we're very like to express our desire to be able to open our preschool in the little shack. And we've been looking for a place for a long time, and finally, a few years, we either find a very small place or a huge place, but this is just a great place to accommodate 35 kids. Right now, like Mark said, we're in a very a small location. We can only accommodate 12 kids, and a lot of parents are very interested in our program. We have families from all Albany, all nearby communities, and besides being a Montessori, they like our program. Part of the curriculum is we teach Spanish. The parents love that, even though we have kids coming to our program that speak different languages, but we also teach Spanish, and the parents like to have trilingual kids. So we would love to have our program at 1089, the Key Shack. So that's why we're here for, to hopefully we can open our program in there. We also like that building because it's not just a main building, but it has the small house in the back. So we thought we put our little toddlers in the small house, and then when they're like 3.5 years old, they can move into the big building, graduate from the little house, and go into the main building. So that's what makes this place even more exciting for us. It's cozier because it has the main building, but it also has the little house in the back. And we're going to make it very beautiful. Thank you.
I have a question. It looks like there's a garage as part of on the Dartmouth side of, am I reading that correctly? Will that be square footage towards the school or storage, or would that actually be a parking space?
No, that's actually going to be converted to like the main entrance / eating area. We're going to do something creative with it. And so the current, the roll-up door that's there now, we're actually going to put a main entrance door. We're going to do away with a garage-type roll-up door.
Okay. Is there room in the back for outside area? Will you be using the parks and the?
Well, we will be using the parks, but one of the things, the front building by itself probably wouldn't have worked because of it only had like about 600 square feet just in that building, but it just so happened that the rear building, 1107 Dartmouth, was also available. So we were able to take that property too. So we're going to take the fence off from the middle, and it's going to be one big nice yard for the kids.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant right now?
This is going to go more towards the staff, but it also concerns the applicant. I believe the parking's wrong. I think they could get tandem parking, given that it's teachers and not drop-off. So they could get their 6 parking on the site if we allow tandem for this.
In that little, the driveway?
In the parking area.
They might be able to.
Well, if you look at the photograph, it feels like that it would be difficult to fit an entire car behind,
Yeah.
especially on this cant. It seems.
I think it would encroach on the sidewalk.
Yeah, it probably would. What I'm looking at is their drawing more than photographs.
But you might be able to pull a car up perpendicular behind.
Yeah, well, if they're going to move the front, the entrance to the side, then they might be able to get a little bit more space in there for parking cars, but maybe not.
Well,
It's
you
very
can-
awkward. I looked at it,
Yeah.
you know, it's a very, and it looks like a big space, but there really are, it looks to me like there were really only 3 parking spaces there.
Well, I think you can get 4, but that's,
You think you can get 4? Maybe. Mhm.
I can't read them, 20 feet, okay, so that's really only 2.5. So where they show 3 cars, we really only get 2 parking stalls. So the third one would be where it says entrance.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they're not going to get 3 across.
yeah. All right.
One of the other things that concerns me about this layout is people coming northbound on San Pablo, making a right turn onto Dartmouth and an immediate left turn into this area. It's
Well, I
going to
think-
cause some problems if somebody's in the parking lot trying to get out or doing a drop-off. Here you go.
But
So
the
if-
drop-off would be mostly on San Pablo, because it's, has
green zone.
the green stripes there.
You're hoping that, but if somebody's here and somebody's trying to do that, they're going to block that whole intersection. So that concerns me about that movement.
Let me make sure I understand this. You said if they're heading northbound on San Pablo, and they would make a left.
Right turn
right
onto
turn,
Dartmouth.
and then a left turn.
right immediately into the
Okay.
parking lot.
Into the key shack there.
If they
yeah.
can't make that turn, they're stuck. Anybody else wanting to make that turn on Dartmouth can't make it
Yeah.
until that issue resolves itself with that, because it's so, that turn into that driveway is so close to the corner.
Yeah.
I would like to add that on the south side of the street, next to the restaurant, that there is no, it's a red zone, and there's no parking there. So they
Right.
could, when they turn, they most likely would stay to the
Oh,
right.
okay.
Before they actually crossed
Okay.
over.
Well, what I'm going to say is I think that reverse your exit and entrance, and you resolve the problem. Because you're coming in from San Pablo, turning right onto your site, and then looping back out onto Dartmouth.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying pull into the
Yeah,
side
pull
past
into
the
the
corner?
driveway,
Pull into
the
the-
key shack driveway.
Right, but yeah, pull into the Key Shack driveway from San Pablo and not Dartmouth. Then you've eliminated the conflict at Dartmouth, and, because if people can't pull, people on Dartmouth, the cars on your lot can't pull out, so they can't block traffic. They've got to wait till that intersection clears before they can pull out. Anyway, it might be something you guys want to look at, the circulation on that site, because I think it's marginal if you want to make a right turn and then a left turn into the parking lot. So, anyway,
All right.
I would suggest looking at that, maybe.
Okay.
Well,
Well, I
maybe if
think we
we, sorry, maybe if we kept the driveway for the employees, and then they wouldn't be pulling in there, they can primarily take the 20-minute zone.
Yeah, that's the hope. That's why one of the
That's the
conditions
hope.
we've put on other
Yeah, yeah.
preschools like this is that you develop a written document you can give to each one of your
Yes.
students' parents, so they know that this is how it's supposed to run. In other cases, we've actually put people out on the street for the first couple of weeks each year so they can direct the parents on pickup and
Right.
drop-off.
And we'll make that part of our mission agreement.
Yeah, I think those are very good suggestions.
'Cause it's a bad intersection.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of traffic goes through that intersection.
yeah.
Yeah. One of the good things is the business right behind 1089, their hours of operation is from 9 on, and the other business, it opens up at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So by then, all our drop-offs are
Your
complete.
drop-offs are done. That's right, that's right.
And he does close at 5, so.
Yeah.
And I was hoping you're going to go across the street and rent that building also.
That'd be
A
nice.
little restaurant.
The kebab house?
Yeah.
Turn that into a daycare?
Yeah,
Would be willing to do that.
the deal's right, but no, I'm just saying that's always been a tough building to run a restaurant out of.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Any other comments right now?
No?
All right. Well, I have something. I did, professionally, a couple of years ago, I did a project for the Chinese school at 1333 University in Berkeley. right on University Avenue. I did the environmental studies on it and did the use permitting for it. One of our concerns that came up then, because there were some new air quality guidelines out from the Air Resources Board, was whether or not having a child care center, which we consider a sensitive use, next to a really high-traffic road was a kind of concern, an impact. And the Air Resources Board says that if you're 500 feet from a freeway and you're downwind from the road here, or if you're adjacent to a road that carries more than 100,000 cars a day, you're kind of in a zone that is not good for sensitive receptors. San Pablo Avenue is way more than 500 feet from the freeway, and it doesn't carry 100,000 vehicles a day. So the Air Resources Board would not say that this is a sensitive use in an area where it shouldn't be. That being said, what we did with that nursery school or the Chinese school on University Avenue is that we put a condition of approval in their approvals in Berkeley to require that that their ventilation system have high-capacity filters in it. So the HEPA filters, the HEP or carbon filters. The issue are small particulates, mostly from cars, very small particle emissions, and those filters take them out. You're not in a sensitive area, but like that school, you're very close to it. And I would strongly recommend that you look at that ventilation system in the Key Shack building, and I think in the house too, and that you talk to a heating contractor about your ventilation system and try to get very high-quality filters installed. At the time, the applicant for the Chinese school did that and told us that, gosh, it didn't amount to wasn't very costly at all. He was surprised but they already had a good HVA system in there, and I don't know what the Key Shack building has now at all. But I think just for the safety of your students, the long-term safety, they'll be spending many hours a day there.
Yes.
And San Pablo Avenue does carry a lot of traffic. It doesn't carry 100,000 cars a day, but it carries a lot. And I think that it's kind of an environmental issue that you would be well advised to make some investment into good filtration systems for all those hours a day when the children are indoors and in those rooms. Okay.
Well, thank you for that. And I do want to say that that's our most important part of this is safety for the kids. And it just so happens that the Key Shack does not have any ventilation system in there at all. And so we're putting brand new HVAC in there, and we will make sure that they are.
Okay, so then you want to talk for good specification filters. And my recollection was that the architect said that they need to be changed like every 6 months, and they cost $60 each or something like that. Not a terrible investment, but that was a while back. And when you're doing that, please add those specifications to that building.
We will.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
before you go too far, I wouldn't be that concerned about it because the new green code specifies them.
Does it?
Yeah, and
Okay.
that's unfortunate that I believe you drew the drawing. Somebody who drew the drawings?
The initial drawings I did.
Yeah, I think
we do have some professional ones that are made up now.
Yeah, you might have to because your ADA bathrooms and, for instance, the stairs to the house from the street are going to have a ramp. Right. So there's other things you're going to have to do that to improve it. And then you're going to have to meet the Cal Green Code. You're going to have to get Title 24, things like that are still out there that you have to do. Just it's not the planning approval.
Right.
So
on the new drawings, we've already included the ramp in the front, the ADA. Also, the bathroom has been drawn up by the architect, and it does include ADA.
Okay.
Oh, so there's drawings that we haven't seen.
We just got them.
Okay.
All right. I think I should open a public hearing on that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And we may call you back. All right, is there anyone from the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Anyone else? No speaker cards? Okay. All right, then I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Do we have comments, discussion, a motion?
I would just say that I'm in favor of this project, and I would like to add to the conditions of approval that the applicant provide street trees as appropriate to the site, working with the city arborist, and that I noticed bike racks are already mentioned in the conditions, but if we could just add referring to the number of which as recommended by the active transportation plan, just to make that clear, that would be great. Those would be my only two recommendations. Otherwise, I'm in favor of this project.
Anyone else?
I think that's a great suggestion. If it's possible to get street trees on the San Pablo side, that would benefit the whole community, and it might actually filter the air a little bit for the kids inside. I think this is a great project. I can imagine that it's going to be very popular. Albany needs lots of good childcare, so we're very excited to have you come into the community. And it's a project that makes sense at this location. It seems convenient for parents. It's within walking distance of some really nice parks, and once the area across the street is developed, you can take a field trip to the grocery store, or you could take a field trip to, it could be fun and very walkable. So I think it's a great location, and I'm in favor of the project.
Okay. Bill, any comments?
You going to say something? No, okay. I don't have much to add to that. I'm in favor of the project. I think it's great. I think there's going to be a lot happening there. Street trees are a good idea. So yeah, I don't have anything to add that hasn't already been added.
Could someone formulate a motion? We have a few things here.
I'd be willing to start a motion. I move approval of 1089 San Pablo Avenue, planning application 14-004, were there conditions of approval already attached? Yes.
They are.
And working with the city arborist to add street trees if possible.
Would you entertain the slight addition of referencing the active transportation plan as to the number of bike racks?
Yes.
And bike racks,
Thank you.
All right.
I'll second that.
Okay. Did we want to say anything about the parking arrangement in this motion?
Traffic engineer will have a lot to say about it.
I think so. So we want the plans referred to the traffic engineer then?
Yeah, I think we'll have Aleda take a look at it.
Is that standard? You'll be doing that?
Yeah, we can do that in this case and
Okay.
include Aleda in the plan check.
So it doesn't need to be included in the motion then?
You can go ahead and include it.
All right.
Just so that we have
All right.
a paper trail that'll go with plan check.
Okay. And let's add a reference, if we could, then to refer the site design to the traffic engineer.
Okay, I'll second with that reference as well.
Okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No one opposed? Okay, so your project's been approved. You can move forward. Now the hard part starts. You're welcome.
Good luck.
Yeah, welcome to Albany, and it's a service that's direly needed.
Yeah, and
Okay,
he
great.
did mention there's a 14-day appeal period, so, okay.
Okay. Yes, yeah, yeah.
Frank,
That's
if you
good.
want to put
Okay,
some
very
planters
good.
out there so the kids can grow food, that'd be great too.
Yeah, good. Okay, good, thank you. Oh, good.
So
David
I'm
is
going to
back,
recuse
and you have to
myself
leave.
from the next item, and
Yeah,
I will actually leave for the evening.
yeah,
Is there anything we need to
Good
cover
evening.
before you leave?
okay.
The only thing we had under announcements was actually an article we didn't get to you in a timely manner that was it's in the latest issue of the League of California Cities, which we can send around.
You will send it around?
I'm sorry, what was?
You will send that around?
I will, yeah.
Okay.
The other thing, I'm sure you know, but the University Village appeal was heard by the City Council a week ago today, and they upheld your decision by a 5-0 vote. The housing element was also adopted on Monday last week, March 3rd. So that has been sent to the state for certification.
And didn't the city council also make some changes to one or the other of those items as well with their approval?
There were a couple of changes to the UC Village. There were some typographical issues that were sorted out. There was an amendment to the PUD that was also presented to them, and they acted on that as well.
Do you remember the details of that?
I can, to be honest with you, I don't, and it's not because I wasn't involved. I think just we went through 8 resolutions on that, so I'm blanking at the moment, but I can certainly follow up.
It's about 250 pages of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, the resolutions alone were about a ream each.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And there were just a couple of very minor changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a unanimous vote. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening.
It was late at night. It was a long hearing. It was a long.
That's right. Doug was
I was
there.
It was a long hearing, 4 or 5 recesses, several
Thanks for
people
being
removed
there.
from the room, that sort of thing.
Removed from the room?
Yeah.
Did you say?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
The mayor had to call in the sergeant at arms, which is a
Yeah.
police officer, to remove some people from the room, and there were 4 or 5 recesses to restore order, that sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
So you were pretty rowdy that night.
It was, yeah. And the mayor limited the speakers to 1 minute. I got up to speak. By the time I'd introduced myself, my minute was up. 1 minute is not long. So, anyway, and it still went on for hours.
Yeah, it started at 6:30, and we were there till, what, about 10:15, 10:30?
Yeah.
Almost 4 hours.
About 4 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We've covered what you've missed.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. All right. The next item on our agenda then is 1319 Solano. This is the Jazzercise project. Ann, do you have a staff report?
Yes. Before you is a application for a conditional use permit and parking exception for Jazzercise classes offered at Church on the Corner, which is at 1319 Solano Avenue. The Jazzercise franchise began operating in the lower-level multipurpose room at the church in the fall of 2013. Community development staff and the city treasurer received anonymous inquiries regarding zoning compliance and business license issuance associated with the business. Staff verified through the Jazzercise website that a franchise was listed at the subject address, though it did not have the business license or the zoning clearance. As such, city treasurer and I sent a joint letter identifying the zoning and finance regulations that need to be satisfied as part of the business operation. The applicant utilizes the multipurpose room, which is approximately 1,600 square feet in area. Classes are offered Monday through Saturday, 3 times per day at 8:15, 9:30, and 5:30 in the evening. Based on information submitted by the applicant, the attendance varies from 6 to 25 participants per class. This business definition, an aerobics class, falls under the gym and health club definition of the city's municipal code, which specifically identifies aerobics classes. It further identifies that a use of this sort requires a conditional use permit in our Solano, San Pablo, and commercial mixed-use districts. With this application, the applicant is seeking a parking exception for 5 off-street spaces, as there is no surface lot associated with the church. Staff did conduct a survey while class was in session. I went out last Tuesday at 5:30. I know class was in session because I could hear the music, so I know that those areas, attendance, there were attendance at the class. So I walked within 500 feet of that and overall concluded that there was a 31 to 33% availability of on-street parking. Bear in mind, though, that the westernmost portion of this area is Key Route, and the easternmost is up on Ramona. So it's a pretty good size area, and certainly Pomona, which is the cross street which the church is located, had the most parking occupancy of all the streets surveyed. With the conditions that we've provided to you, one which is fairly general, which gives you the right to review the use permit at any time, we'd recommend that you require a 6-month review of this use permit for compliance, as you've done with many other use permits you've reviewed in recent years. We also would recommend that you include a condition which specifically caps the student occupancy at 25 students, and this is based on the information provided by the applicant, and perhaps they could speak to the attendance, but we would recommend that you include that. There was a number of correspondence that was received on this project. Some of it was in your packet, some of it you received after the packet was released. There was one letter in particular that was sent to you yesterday evening, which questioned the appropriateness of the categorical exemption that was applied pursuant to CEQA. In the staff report, we identified section 15301 with the thought that an exercise class in a multi-purpose room, an existing church, was not a significant expansion of the uses that already occur on site. After conferring with the city attorney, we concluded that the commission could also exempt the project pursuant to 15303 of CEQA, which is new construction or conversion of small structures, or 15332, which is infill development projects. So should you make a motion this evening, I think we would probably ask that you apply 15332 as the appropriate exemption for the project. I have several speaker cards, so I know we'll have public comment. I can answer any questions you have, and the applicant is here too.
Okay, great. Are there any questions of Ann?
One question, I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but do you know if the church on the corner is holding services and other events on a regular basis?
They do, but I don't believe they hold them during those times. I checked the church calendar, and I believe that the pastor of the church is here, and he could probably better answer that for you. I know they have services on Sundays, and of course there are no classes on Sundays, but in looking at their calendar, I don't think I saw much overlap between the Jazzercise use and their regular activities.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? All right. Could we hear from the applicant or the applicant's representative?
You got the short straw.
Well, I was really hoping to see the interpretive dance, given that I teach Jazzercise. I'm Nan Brace, and I am the Jazzercise instructor who brought this business to the church. The purpose of the program is to increase and maintain your well-being. And we've done it for a really long time, this particular program. It started about 45 years ago. I've been teaching for 28 but just recently moved to Church on the Corner. I was thinking about the question of attendance. This week, I enter the attendance in a computer for bookkeeping purposes. The classes ran, Monday was 21, 21, 16. And just a small clarification, there are only 2 classes on Saturday.
Oh.
No Saturday evening class.
Yeah.
So Monday through Friday, 3 classes, Saturday morning 2.
And none on Sunday?
None on Sunday. And in fact, the very nice Korean church folks let us use their sound system. So we're very appreciative of that. They're the people in the room on Sunday. I'm here with Tom, the pastor of the church, a teaching associate, and a longtime client. Let's see, what can I tell you that you need to know? It's a group of people, primarily women, primarily more my age than Ann's. We're somewhat mature. We come together, we work out, and that's beneficial. It's good for all of us. But even more than that, I think that we bring to one another mental good health, emotional good health, a sense of community. And with that in mind, as well as the exercise benefits, we really are interested in being good neighbors. And I did not know that I know that I needed a business license, but I just assumed I'd get a bill in the mail. So I apologize for that. I did not know that I needed to come to you with that. I've had business licenses for the entirety that I've taught Jazzercise. It's not something that I don't understand. I really do. Let's see, other things. The business about being a good neighbor, we were more concerned, I personally was more concerned that the sound would be an issue. And it seems that it isn't, at least I haven't heard that the sound is the issue about the parking. Whatever we are able to do to make it better, we're willing to work through all the possibilities. I know that 3 ladies last week proudly announced that they walked to class. They happen to be Albany residents, so that made it easy for them, and the weather was glorious. As far as spreading the parking out, taking it off Pomona, the things that I've thought about is asking people to walk a block and park on Key Route, that kind of thing. There are ladies who are not going to do that, and I know that. But it's something that many people would embrace because we're happy where we are. Pastor Cullen has offered us a lovely space. We're able to embrace this activity that we enjoy. And we've met some really nice people in Albany who have come because they've walked by and they have heard the music. And Ann, why didn't you come in and dance with us? I mean, really. But that's what I have to say. I know the other folks here have specific issues that they will address also.
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant?
Do you guys pay rent?
Pardon me?
Do you pay rent?
We do pay rent.
Okay.
What do you charge for the classes?
I charge, there are various ways to buy tickets. The most cost-effective way is to buy a class pass. It's $50 a month. The most expensive way to buy a class is to buy one class at a time, and it's $15. There's another option that if you're a visitor, if your auntie from Texas has come to town, we sell a visitor's pass for $25. You can, if you travel a lot, you can only come to class sporadically. I sell a ticket that's 8 classes for $88, good for the rest of your natural life. So when you're in town, you can take class. When you're not, it's not a financial hardship.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, good. Thank you. We'll call
You're
you back
welcome.
if we have further questions. All right, so that's the applicant. Now I'd like to open the public hearing,
Okay.
and Ann has some speaker cards.
Yes. Becky Boyer, Tom Cullen, Beverly Hopp, Alan Way, and Jamie Lake.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. I'm Becky Boyer. I'm an instructor with Jazzercise. I've worked with Nan for 9 years, and I have, before that, attended classes of hers for 20 years, so we go way back. Primarily, I want to say that we are delighted to be in Albany. It's our intention to be a positive community resource, and we're seeing that that is taking effect. People from Albany who can walk to class are coming, and they embrace our program, and they're having a good time, and so are we. I also am aware that people who come to class from other neighborhoods are frequenting the local businesses. I hear people who talk about the yarn shop, they go get a manicure or pedicure, they buy coffee at the nursery across the street, they go to Kim's Sandwiches. They're contributing to the local economy. That got loud all of a sudden. Also, as a display of our intention to be a part of the community, Nan helped to refurbish the room that we're dancing in. She helped to, along with Pastor Tom Collins' financial support, they put in a new floor. We painted the room and made it and upgraded it, made it look nicer. We do care about being there, and as Nan said, we hope to be considered good neighbors, and it has been dismaying to learn that some people are not happy with our presence there because we're nice people, you know, and we have fun, and we have good things to offer. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Good evening. My name is Tom Cullen. I'm pastor at Church in the Corner. And a couple of thoughts to add to what Becky mentioned. As I looked through the material tonight, I was really surprised at the number of folks signing the petition about parking. I regularly walk the streets, interact with neighbors and that. And during the time that Jazzercise has been there, I've not had one person approach me and mention any concern. In fact, I know one of our speakers I actually saw just a couple of days ago, and there was no comment about the parking. Not to say that there isn't a concern, I'm just mentioning that it's never been mentioned to me directly. The other thing is, like all urban churches, we struggle with finances. And we have a church building that is not used 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And so we have an opportunity to open it up for different uses. And it provides us with a much-needed revenue stream. I noted when we talked about the Stannage property, there was concern about deferred maintenance. And one of the things, if you look at Church in the Corner, we have gone to great lengths to always make sure there's no deferred maintenance. And having a revenue stream from Jazzercise helps make sure that's the case. In fact, because of that revenue stream, we were able to go ahead and paint the church last fall. And particularly the backside of our church was beginning to weather, and that was something that the residents on Pomona would look at. And so we're sensitive to that to be a good neighbor, and Jazzercise helps give us a revenue stream that helps us a lot on that. The other way that Jazzercise helps us with the revenue stream is just simply doing ministry. And the ministry I'm particularly talking about is the ministry in which we reach out to the community to try and better the community. A premier outreach of ours is every Friday we open up that downstairs area to the youth of the community. And we provide them with snacks and games and a place to hang out for a couple hours versus run the streets and doing whatever kids that age will do. The reason we're able to do that is because of partially the contribution of the revenue stream from Jazzercise. And we have probably 80 kids on our roster, and on any given Friday, we probably have 2 to 3 dozen that run through there and sit with us and enjoy food and play games and hang out. And again, we're able to do that because of that revenue stream. We couldn't do it on our own. The final thing I would mention is exactly what Becky mentioned, and that is that we've got new people coming to Solano Avenue. We're a member of Solano Avenue Association. We're very concerned about the economic vitality of the avenue. We've got a concern already, there are too many vacant storefronts, and so we're concerned about the economic vitality, and as Becky mentioned, the Jazzercise folks are helping to make that a little less so of a concern for us by the business they're bringing. So thank you very much.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm cognizant of the fact that you've read all the letters that we've written, but this letter actually is going to address the neighbors because I want to make them more aware that this Jazzercise exercise class is more than an exercise class. It's true that the Albany Jazzercise at the Church on the Corner opened in September of 2013, but the roots of this Jazzercise facility go back to 1992, about 22 years ago, when Nan Brace and 2 other Jazzercise instructors banded together to form a Jazzercise center in Richmond off of Highway 80. During that time, the center generated fitness as well as lifelong friendships. As the Jazzercisers' kids grew up, life successes and tragedies were shared, and you can always go to Jazzercise and find a sympathetic ear. So who are the Jazzercisers we're talking about? The classes are made up largely of baby boomers, some of who have been with Nan for over 20 years. In fact, we have one Jazzerciser who just celebrated her 91st birthday. So while this might be a rowdy bunch in their own way, they're not discourteous or a destructive bunch. Think of your mom or even your grandma in some instances. And who can dispute the benefits of exercise, improved cardiovascular system, better hand-eye coordination, enhanced memory, and as most Jazzercisers will tell you, your immune system improves and you're not as likely to get sick. So to recap, Jazzercise at Church on the Corner is a small business with a very long history, draws participants not only from Albany but surrounding cities, offers fun and fitness at an affordable cost, and it's a gathering place for old friends as well as new. Nan Brace is the main reason that this center has been so successful. With a genial personality, she's built a successful business, but it's struggled with this recent move. So we respectfully request the Commission recognize the benefits of this, that the center can offer to the community, and grant the parking exception to the church on the corner. Thanks for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Hello, I'm Alan Way. I live at 843 Pomona Avenue. I'm concerned about the very real impact of the Jazzercise business on the parking availability on the 800 block of Pomona Avenue, especially because most people who come to the Jazzercise are going to park on that block versus walking across Solano Avenue and parking on the other side or Key Route. But I've also heard that they have now are aware that the people on 800 block of Pomona Avenue have some real concerns about the parking, which is impacted. I would like the Commission to be sensitive to this issue, which I'm sure you are. I know many of the issues surrounding this conditional use permit have been expressed in writing to the Development Department by myself and the neighbors via the petition and letters, and I will not go over them again here. I had another comment here, but I'm going to change it a little. I saw that the parking survey done initially said that there was a 39% parking availability. And when I first saw that, I really strongly thought, no, this cannot be right, because there's very rarely 39% availability, even when there's no class there, because it's a very impacted street. So I'm still curious as to how many people were in that class, but already Ann has kind of spoken to that somewhat. The conditional use permit, I understand, is for up to 25 people, and the future impact of parking, which I think they're now aware of, and they will try to mitigate that, which I can appreciate, okay? And I'm sure the neighbors of Pomona Avenue on 800 block will also appreciate too. I do think a further study regarding this conditional use permit is warranted before it is granted due to the current and future impact on parking as their business grows. They've already addressed my next comment, about not understanding that they needed a business permit and operated for 6 months without a permit or a business license, but that has been addressed also. I do understand that there needs to be a healthy balance between business development and the residents in the neighborhoods adjacent to businesses. In this case, the 5 required off-street parking spaces required by this business is being asked to be waived, and the burden of that parking requirement put directly on the residents living on the 800 block of Pomona Avenue. So basically, in closing, I just ask the Commission be respectful and considerate to the residents on the 800 block of Pomona in the City of Albany regarding this conditional use permit. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker? Yes.
Hello, I'm Jamie Lake of 832 Pomona Avenue. And as you probably noticed in your package, you'll see that pretty much most of the neighbors on the 800 block have signed a petition objecting to the approval of this Jazzercise conditional use permit. My understanding is that there's only one neighbor who's supporting it. Otherwise, the entire block is opposed to it. I guess, I was going to speak about the whole exemption, the 15301 that the planning department has said should be exempt. But, if you look in that, it states in there that involving negligible or no expansion of use beyond that existing at the time of the lead agency determination. When I came to this block 25 years ago, Church on the Corner was just that, Church on the Corner. Since then, there are now 4 businesses operating out of Church on the Corner. There's two separate churches, 2 distinct parishes. There is an after-school program called Mixed Gen, and now Jazzercise. My investigation, there's only Church on the Corner that's bothered to get a permit or business license. There's 4 businesses operating, 3 of them illegally. Jazzercise has been operating, like she said, for 20-some years. Don't accept her ignorance if she didn't know about the business license stuff. They've operated for 6 months. They're here tonight only because they got turned in and got caught, and that's why they're here. I think that the Commission needs to seriously look at just what kind of impact the church in the corner is having. I always thought the church in the corner was a good neighbor. I think the neighbors are beginning to question that because it's starting to look like the church now may be just a business subletting their space out to as many people as they can get. Jazzercise is not a small mom and pop Albany business. This is a multinational corporation, 7,000 locations. They're in El Cerrito, they're in Kensington. It's great. I think Jazzercise is fantastic, but Albany already has exercise programs. 3 blocks away is the Y. This is not a unique business. It's a for-profit business. So it's kind of interesting because one of the speakers mentioned that they were struggling. Well, it's kind of interesting because if they have 21 people in 2 of their classes and they're struggling, and they're given, if for some reason you approve this and you give them a 25-person limit, if they're struggling at 21, I'm not sure how the numbers are going to work unless they get more than that because, $50 a person, 25 people, that's $5,000 a month if they have 25. I know they have to give 20% to the corporation, so that brings them down to $4,000. I'm not sure how much they rent the space of the church for, but I question just how much success that they can have with 25 people. And what is it going to be, if you approve it tonight, what is it going to be? The neighborhood of residents who pay taxes and support this community? Are we going to have to police this business? The only reason they're here tonight is because we turned them in, okay? They disregarded you. They disregarded the rules. They know what's going on. So please, I certainly urge you to not approve this. And if for some reason you do approve it, or if you don't approve it, please tell the city to give them the cease and desist order tonight. Otherwise, they will drag this on for another year in appeals, and we will have to put up with the parking problems while they drag this thing out. It's taken them 6 months to get here tonight, and they've been operating, making money, and we have the problem. So please, shut it down. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers?
I don't have.
No? Okay, with that then, I'll close the public hearing on this item and bring it back to the commission. Let's see, does anyone want to start? I actually could start here on something. Maybe I will. After reviewing the application and the petition with all of the neighbors, a large number of neighbors who'd signed it, I was concerned about the impacts of this, and so I have actually done 6 additional parking surveys on my own since last weekend, and maybe I can briefly talk about a couple of things. First, I also did a survey of the block, the 800 block only, and I can confirm that, at least to the best of my knowledge, all of the homes do have off-street parking on that block. They have their own parking spaces off-street. Some of them have 2 or more off-street spaces, but everybody has at least one. And then I looked at parking availability, both when the classes were in session and when they were not in session. And a couple of I looked at other blocks, but on that one block, 800 Pomona, on Monday during the 5:30 class, there were 10 vacant spaces. On Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. during that class, there were 13 vacant spaces, including 2 right in front of the door. On Tuesday during the 5:30 class, there were 17 vacant spaces on that block. On Wednesday early in the morning, it's today, before classes, 8 o'clock, before 8 o'clock, there were like over 30 spaces vacant on that block. So it's clear that there's some parking that happens, I think, when the class starts. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 800 Pomona block had only 18 spaces vacant. So it probably is affected by employee parking from Solano Avenue, that sort of thing, looks like it. And at 2:30, a half hour later, there were 23 spaces vacant, confirming again that the street was pretty parked up during the middle of the day. There were, it looks to me, there were fewer spaces available in the middle of the afternoon on that block. No, there were a few more open spaces in the middle of the afternoon than there were during during the time when the classes were going on. Solano, as you might expect, had a lot of open spaces early in the morning, only 4 open spaces at 2 p.m. And when the classes were going on, which is before the standard business hours on Solano, there were 5 spaces open on 8:30 a.m. And there were 3 spaces open at 5:40 on Tuesday on Solano. A couple other little things I noticed is that the 800 block of Ramona, not Pomona, but Ramona, looks more parked up than does the 800 block of Pomona. The 900 block of Pomona, I only looked at like the first third of it or so, the first 6 or 8 houses on the west side. And generally, that was pretty well parked up. There were 5 spaces at 8:30 in the morning in that area, and 10 and Tuesday afternoon at 5:40. And finally, there's a lot of parking available at Washington and Pomona, Ramona, a lot. And then on Key Route, which is double parked, a double-sided two-way street, there's also parking available every time I drove by there and every time I drove or biked through there. Quite a bit of parking available on Key Route for sure. So, you know, I know how it is that we all look at those street spaces in front of our houses as kind of proprietary looks, but they are public spaces, and we need to look at that, and I've certainly counted only the public spaces. Also, in my counting, I ignore the green spaces or the handicap spaces, because those wouldn't be appropriate for the Jazzercise classes. Okay, so I wanted to share that before we start, and then maybe someone else could start the discussion about the application.
Well, I'll jump in.
Okay.
You know, it's a question that we approach often here is, you know, are we creating, you know, environments for people, or are we creating environments for cars? And, you know, as I said earlier about the size of houses, I'll say the same thing here. It's great to be back in Albany, where we're really creating environments for people to be together, walk, ride their bikes, and dance, and exercise. So, you know, I think if we were talking about a church property that were located in a residential neighborhood, which we do allow, it's an allowed use in a residential, adding all of these commercial uses could be a real problem, especially if they're renting space. And, you know, coincidentally, if these were ministry, we wouldn't be talking about them. They would just be part of the church's program, and many churches run similar things. However, we know this is a commercial use, and there may be others in this building. It's also a commercially zoned parcel on a commercial street. And not only that, but a street that we want to see as a goal of the city be a vibrant place where businesses thrive, where people want to go to, where they spend their money and visit, you know, the various establishments, and all of that creates a vibrant and safe environment. So for all those reasons, you know, I have no hesitation supporting this tonight. I do have a few ideas. Some are for the neighbors, some are for the operators of the program. I think the idea that's been voiced both by staff and by neighbors of asking those who are, you know, willing to park further away on Key Route in particular, which is you know, we have double the parking on that street that we have anywhere else. That's a perfectly appropriate suggestion that we can make. The city has an ordinance where any block can organize and say, we're going to have permit parking on our block. We will not allow other people to park here for more than 90 minutes at a time. And that, probably more than, you know, limiting or denying Jazzercise, would make a big difference on any of the blocks that are within the north or south block of Solano Avenue. And what that would do is prevent the workers at the establishments, the businesses that are on Solano Avenue, from being able to park their car all day in front of people's houses like they do now. I think unless this is an old Google Earth image, there does not appear to be a bike rack in front of Church on the Corner, and I know I'm stealing Nick's thunder, but I'd like to see that added as part of this application. I think this is a generally otherwise underutilized block, so to see this activity occur there is in my mind a benefit to our city and not a detriment.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest, I really struggled with this one because it's almost to the effect of creating a commercial business at a church where you're taking rent and you're having an impact to the cities, and you have a tax-exempt status. So it almost gives you an unfair advantage as a business on Solano Avenue to other businesses where this could easily go into a storefront on Solano Avenue and be a viable storefront. I understand that. I understand also that the money you get from this helps other programs, which is the offset of a nonprofit. So that's great. And I really did struggle with this, and I do feel for the neighbors and the impacts, because we look at these parking studies, and I've looked at parking studies on my street and go, yeah, right. There's not that many parking spots available. If you hit it right, you hit it right. You hit the lottery. There may be 5 spots available on my street. Most of the time, I'm double parked in my driveway. Luckily, I have 4 parking spots, so it's not a problem. And it's not the short-term programs like this that are causing the issues. It's the long-term parking of the businesses on Solano Avenue. The workers come in at 9 o'clock in the morning and don't leave till 6. So, and sometimes later, when you're a restaurant, you're there till 10 or 11 o'clock or some type of entertainment facility. So I don't think it's this type of use that's really causing a major impact to the parking as much as the longer-term businesses. And we've asked, and I've asked the city council, and if they're listening, I hope they are, that if you're going to do a parking exception, there should be a dollar amount to pay for that parking exception, because that is impacting a true use here, that we could use some of that money to start finding parking in other locations. The issue that I also struggle with is I understand that you really want to do more of it. You've got a kind of a set group, but more of an outreach to Albany, similar to the Y and similar to the community center here where they offer classes, that you give a discount, small as it might be, to Albany residents. If you come out of area, you impact. If you're in Albany, less impact, and you might increase your usage, people walking. So I understand the parking issue. I'm just nervous about the noise issue. So please be careful with the sound, because we have had a lot of complaints with restaurants wanting to have music on Solano Avenue, and we've said no, or we've said acoustical only. So maybe you can start an acoustical Jazzercise. I don't know, something different. But anyway, I'm just kidding. But be careful of the noise, because that does have a long impact with the neighbors. Your hours are not horrendous. You're not there at 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock at night having Jazzercise with the doors open and loud music. So I think that I can support the application, given that we limit it to the amount and do a trial run and see what happens, and come back in 6 months and discuss this more, maybe discuss the parking more, and see where we're at. But at least give you 6 months to see if we can work out some of the issues we have with in the neighborhood. So I would support it at that point.
Okay, well, I think I agree with all of Commissioner all of my most of my fellow commissioners have said. I'm also not very sympathetic about the business license issue. Someone who's been doing this for 20 years should know that they need to get a business license. But that said, you know that they're working to get into compliance with that. I do agree with Commissioner Arkin that I'd put it that we put the city, the businesses and the residents at a disadvantage by not having a permit parking program. And you know, we create problems like this because of that. That's something that I think we need to fix as a city. I also did note the absence of bike racks, and I thought that the church on the corner, I heard the church on the corner was actually working to secure bike racks at one point, or at least one of the members of Albany Strollers and Rollers was trying to work with church on the corner to do that. I would say that that is one avenue to getting bike racks is to work with strollers and rollers who will subsidize bike racks, and the city also has funds for this, general funds for transportation projects, which they sometimes put towards bike racks. And being a nonprofit, that's another route I would suggest you go. So I would definitely suggest the owners look into that. I think that making sure that the people who come to Jazzercise are informed about the use of public transit, walking, biking, and then parking on key route would be an important thing to make sure you emphasize to every attendee. I think that's one way to get to move people away from Pomona. And maybe you can point out the irony of people driving to an exercise class too. I've always thought that was pretty funny. And I think that the idea about the discount for Albany residents is a great one as well. And then finally, I think that one of the residents actually had some very good things to say about how to proceed, which is to just ask that you be concerned about the impacts and ask customers to park on Solano or Key Route, and that we do continue parking surveys and make sure that the impact has either gone down or has not gotten worse. And it seems from the data that we have from the city and from one of our commissioners that I'm not convinced that the impact is huge. And it is, and these spaces in front of one's house are public property. They are not the property of the residents. As our chair pointed out, there is off-street parking on those houses as well. So I'm in favor of this application, and let's see if there's anything else to highlight. No, I think that does it for me.
I have one question for the applicant. Yeah, you lost the vote. Why is it you could not, and I'm not obviously a Jazzercise person, but why can you do your warm down as a walk to Key Route as a group? So you're putting them in the parking spot over there that you need. You know, I'm just saying, you know,
Walk them all out over there.
Walk them all out over there. You know, pass a couple of shops and then get some coffee and continue walking. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of I'm tongue in cheek, but I think actually it's something that could be workable. That with a little creativity, you could do. I mean, my favorite thing is just to walk around Albany, so you could walk out and walk a different route, but you could end up where there's parking available, not impacting the immediate neighbors. It's a block and a half away. That's not a big warm down, but still, it's something that you could walk, talk, bond, and kind of walk people over to that area. I know 25 people, a lot of people are hurt, but if you just started, maybe good things would start happening. But we do appreciate the business. We're just trying to balance some of the concerns and the impacts, given where you're at.
So I want to say this. I was very disappointed when I read this file. That I'm very disappointed that this project had sort of run into a buzzsaw of opposition. Disheartening to see a petition from so many neighbors along Pomona that were opposed to it. And that's one reason why I went out, and it looked like the primary reason was parking. And so that's why I went out and took a real close look at the parking situation. I'm in a position now, after having studied the parking, that I really don't have a problem with approving your application for a use permit, but you did get off to a very bad start with the neighborhood, and by not getting the business license early or for whatever reasons. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay.
But you guys, I have taught in one place for so long.
Yeah.
That the bill just came every year, and I just paid
Oh.
every year.
So you've renewed your Richmond business license for naught. But, okay, in any event, yeah, every city requires a business license, and for something like this, you do need a conditional use permit, and so, yeah, it is something. Yeah, I'm sure. It appears so. Anyway, that being said, I really don't think that I do have a problem voting for the project. I think that the applicant should make some work to end some fences with the neighbors, and I think that it would be a real good idea to direct people to park in places where parking is almost always available. I was amazed at how much parking is on Washington at the end of that block. Every time I looked, it is really empty. Key Route has a lot of parking because it has excess parking. I mean, it does get demand from neighbors there and from Solano, but it generally has free parking, has parking available. So it is a difficult thing, and I appreciate how many people in Albany do look at that space in front of their house and kind of get in the habit of using it and think it's theirs.
Doug,
I don't have a problem with the use because I believe the church on the corner is in the Solano district, and I thought about that for a few minutes, but not long, and I think that the commercial use is appropriate in this commercial zone.
Well, one more thing I'd like to add.
Sure.
This particular stretch of Solano Avenue, from about Key Route up to Curtis, at least, if not all the way up to Berkeley, features angle parking that, unlike Lower Solano, where it's at 60 degrees, up here it's generally at 30 degrees. And if you take and turn that to 60 degrees, same curb-to-curb width as we have in Lower Solano, within the stretch of what you get in 4 cars at 30 degrees, you get at least 6 cars at 60 degrees. Now, looking closely, this particular side of the block, where Church on the Corner is located, actually features 45 degree. So we wouldn't get quite the same pickup of spaces that we would. But the opposite side of the street, adjacent to Flowerland, which has, like the other side, a long continuous stretch, could also be switched to 60-degree parking. And I think this is more, a referral to the Traffic and Safety Commission that we start to do this on these blocks. My firm designed the building at 1304 Solano, and we changed the parking there in part to justify a small parking exception. So I think we could approach something here, and if we did both sides of this block at 60 degrees, I think we'd pick up 5 spaces.
Wow.
Quite honestly.
That's a really good point. If we can pick up parking on Solano.
It's quite a wide street there as well.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, I'll be happy to entertain a motion, and maybe it'll include a referral to traffic and safety.
Maybe it will. I will move.
You can't hear me. Oh, sorry. Okay.
I make a motion to approve planning application 13-091 for Jazzercise located at Church in the Corner, 1319 Solano Avenue, incorporating the conditions in the staff report supporting a conditional use permit and parking exception, substituting for the categorically exempt CEQA requirement, CEQA section 15332, which is more appropriate to this project. And the following ideas and recommendations: that we review the project in 6 months, review the use in 6 months, that there be established a cap of 25 students at any one class, that a bike rack is added on Solano Avenue, that the Jazzercise staff encourage the use of parking on Key Route Boulevard in particular and Solano Avenue as to their users, that the applicant and staff together explore transitioning both sides of this block to 60-degree angle parking.
All right, thank you. Very
And
thorough.
also, if you don't mind, you want to reference the CEQA, 1533.3.
He did.
1533.2?
He did.
he
He
did.
did. Mhm.
I
Okay.
second that excellent motion.
Really excellent, yeah. All right. Is there any further discussion? No. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No one opposed. Okay, so your project's been approved then, and not sure what the next steps are. I'd talk with Ann. Anyway, there is a 14-day appeal period. It could be appealed to the city council. If not, then our action becomes final. Thank you. All right.
Dance on.
Okay, where are we now?
Paul's going to join the class? Paul's going to join the Jazzercise class? So.
Okay, I see on the agenda there's no new business. And so, Ann, I think you might have a discussion on some items here.
Just very briefly, I mentioned the article that I owe you from Western Cities Magazine.
Could we ask you to move outside? We have more items on the agenda. Thank you. All right. Okay.
Just to give you a brief mention of that article, we've discussed here at the commission level that here in Albany we've noticed a proliferation of massage businesses. That has been problematic across the state, and the League of California Cities has actually not only written about it but also did a webinar recently. The legislation which basically allows massage therapists to get licensed at the state level, which has caused some of these problems because, as we found, the background checks are not as thorough as they were at the local level. That legislation will be renewed, so League of California Cities has been looking at creative ways to...
Won't be renewed?
It will be renewed.
Will be renewed.
So we will continue to have to defer to the state. But the league has been exploring some alternatives which allow us to regulate it a little bit more closely. I mean, the law is pretty restrictive. So unfortunately, as we've noted, there have been a high number of massage businesses that have located in town.
Okay.
We have a Measure D working group next Tuesday at 7 o'clock here in the council chambers.
Okay.
And the work plan for the commission for 2014 is slated to go to the city council on Monday evening.
All right.
I believe
Nick,
Doug is...
I will not be here, so it's going to have to fall to you.
Okay.
So.
And it will not be a long meeting.
Tell the council what a great commission they have and how.
Okay, do a little PR, okay.
How hard we work.
Well, I think after last week, getting through the housing element in UC Village, they appreciate that. Those were pretty dense items to get through, so.
Yeah. All right. All right. Anything else? Anyone else have any other?
Just a question, or any other I don't think any of our decisions have been overturned on appeal by the council recently, have they?
I don't believe so. None of the appeals that I've worked on in the
Yeah.
past 3 years have been overturned.
We've had a number of appeals, I know.
I think,
Yeah.
I think they've been upheld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the, you know, when a lot of conditional use permits get appealed, it's like a de novo decision. So they can do anything they want to. They don't have to, so they can modify it, which they do. But the modifications on the village were very, I thought, very minor.
Yeah, they
I
really
hardly remember
weren't.
what they were.
They weren't substantive. I mean, they were just,
very
they really
minor.
went line by line and asked
Oh,
for
there was a lot of
typographical
discussion
corrections.
about Phil's concern about the 1080 area that might not get developed as quickly and might stay vacant for a couple of years, you know, that possibility. A lot of discussion about that issue. They didn't change our recommendation. And then the applicant got up and said, well, we're talking to tenants right now, so we don't think it's going to be vacant.
I do remember one that I was curious about. I saw that they approved the digital billboard with the zoning changes.
No.
And no.
Have something you want to say? You go to the podium.
We're still meeting.
I'm kidding.
And Paul. There were some changes that they made to the digital billboard ordinance, I thought. Or is it ordinance or zoning change? I can't remember.
Oh, there was a last-minute question that had come up that was actually sent to the city attorney, but they didn't ultimately amend it.
They did not.
They did not.
Oh, okay.
There was, yeah, you're correct. There was a brief moment last week where I think it was called off of the consent calendar, and then it was put back on. They quickly redacted that and
Yeah.
took an action on it.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right, that's all my questions. Thanks.
All right. Anything else? Nothing else? Then I think we'll adjourn, and the next meeting is March 26th.
Oh, and for March 26th, we will have a general plan scoping session.
Okay.
So the first 2 hours of that meeting will be encompassed in the general
March
plan.
26th, oh, we're on? Okay, I know I'll be absent that day.
Okay.
Okay, so March 26th, general plan.
General plan scoping session. So
Oh, for the EIR?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So the notice of preparation has been completed. It's, I think, has been sent to the state clearinghouse.
Okay.
Of course, we'll have our notice posted.
Okay. And do we have a big, a lot of items after that, do you think?
Not really. We've tried to do it in a way to preserve your energy. So there are 3 residential remodel applications, which you've already seen, that are coming back to you with revisions. So the hope
Okay.
is that
Okay.
you would be able to take a fairly quick action
All right.
because those applicants have
Yeah.
feedback already.
Yeah. If I may say one last thing, I thought that our consultant, Barry Miller, did a really nice job of presenting the housing element to the council. I mean, it was very smooth and very thorough. I admired it. All right, that's it. The meeting is adjourned then. Thank you very much.